Living in the digital era, it's no secret that video games have us all hooked with their mesmerizing worlds and exciting escapades. But beware, my fellow gamers. Too much time spent glued to the screen can hurt our bodies and minds. Say goodbye to socializing and adulting, because once you fall down the gaming rabbit hole, real life fades away faster than a disappearing power-up. The story begins in a virtual world set in 1424, on the 4th day of the 3rd month, when the flames of the Great Stellian War ignited across the continent of Nasu. The inferno consumed the land, turning countless lives to dust as it swept through the continent. The Demon King and his army advanced with little opposition and a sense of enveloping the entire land. In the midst of the darkness, a warrior emerged. In this virtual RPG, the player's ultimate goal is to defeat the Demon King, become the continent's monarch, and ultimately develop the land. After work, our protagonist spent countless hours grinding away in Paradiso for years. From character development and territory management to dungeon raids and exploring hidden locations for rare items, he immersed himself fully in the game. Over a decade, he aged alongside his avatar, amassing vast knowledge and maintaining his status as the #1 power blogger on a Paradiso information site. Due to his unwavering dedication, as time passes, his body begins to wither, and eventually he passes away. He opens his eyes to find himself as a plump nobleman, immediately sits upright, and questions if he will die at 30. A beautiful young maid beside him anxiously inquires if her lord has had a troubling dream. He quickly scans the room, and it resembles a royal chamber. He apologizes to her and asks who she is. He looks at himself in the mirror and gets worried. He sits back in a chair to take a break, saying his stats look terrible. He has sacrificed 20 years of his life to become overweight. Although Shin Taepong died from exhaustion, he now finds himself resurrected as a fat noble named Jared. With the Nasu calendar and the game's user interface in view, he's certain he has been reborn in Paradiso. However, it's real life now, not just a game. He wonders if he will die again. The Great Stellian War will start in 10 years in 1424. In 5 years, the world will face famines, droughts, and natural disasters. Countries will fight over food because of the Great Nasu War. Nations will struggle and fight among themselves. Jared clutches his neck, reflecting on how, despite his noble status, he feels insignificant and fears he might be the first to die. He becomes furious because, in his opinion, he should have been brought back as a handsome hero who lives a good life. Instead, he knows nothing about the fat nobleman in the Paradiso encyclopedia. Suddenly, the chair leg breaks because it can't hold his weight, and he falls off. According to his memories, Jared should have grown up as a handsome man. He stands up and says that it is not over. He can use the game's bugs and something as sweet as honey because he remembers how things worked before. All he needs to do is lose some weight. He can carve out his future and can take advantage of situations. He can quickly come across anyone by using his knowledge. He aims to lead and unify the world by implementing the best action. Meanwhile, his maid Hayes is cleaning the royal library so he can use it comfortably. She says it has been long since he last went in there. She gets happy to see her lord stepping into the library. Jared starts searching for something in the library and makes a mess. She asks him what he is looking for. He tells her he is looking for the keepsake his father left before he died. He wonders why he didn't think about it when he put it away. She opens the drawer and shows him the keepsake. The smell of old memories fills the air. He thanks her for finding it and is relieved he didn't lose it. She feels happy to help her lord and asks if there's anything else she can do for him. He requests her to step out for a moment and closes the door. She senses something different about Jared and feels happy, thinking he is full of energy. She runs off excitedly, thinking she should return to work and stay cheerful like him. In the library, he wonders that the keepsake is a special artifact that boosts magical abilities. It was left behind by his father, Viscount Barrett. He plans to break it. The keepsake is his only advantage as a 4th-class magician, and his last chance to summon her because of his weak mana capacity. For now, it is the only thing he has to attain success. He begins the ritual and proclaims that his father has to forgive him. He hopes that it can also be the way for him to develop correctly. The room transforms into a terrifying place as something sinister emerges. He realizes it's her, the one being that can only be summoned once in a lifetime. A monstrous figure with a wide grin and glowing red eyes emerges, demanding to know who summoned her. Jared instantly recognizes the evil spirit Isabella. She mocks him, calling him a foolish human, and asks what he wants. Despite her taunts, he feels a surge of excitement, believing Isabella will help him grow stronger. He reminds himself to stay calm and composed, knowing Isabella favors the lazy and has no patience for the fearful. He has to summon her because it is his only chance. He wishes for the mind eye. She laughs at his demand and calls him greedy. Isabella asks him if he wishes to see people's identities. He proclaims yes. The mind eye is a skill that only has access to one user in the history of Paradiso's entirety. It helps users view a person's stats and disposition. It entirely depends on the player's level and how much information he can procure from the skill. Jared will use this skill to establish territory and future stars on his land. She leans in close, eyes locked on his, and asks him to reveal what he treasures most, as everything comes at a price. Hearing his response, she gives him a contract, saying that the mind eye now belongs to Jared, but whatever he holds dear will now belong to her. Whether it is money or it is honor, she will take it and enslave him. Even if it's his family, she will eat them all. He is shocked to realize that she can read his mind. So that is the evil curse he has heard about. He smirks, and Isabella pouts, confused about what's happening to her lips. He racked his mind about what was the most precious thing to him. It was tough to think about that, but creating your terms on the contract is quite simple. The most precious thing to him is the first kiss of 34-year-old Shin Tae-pong. She tries to refuse but can't escape. She wonders what kind of crazy person would consider their first kiss as their great treasure. It will be a bit painful that his first kiss is going to be with an evil spirit. With closed eyes, he petitions the guardian of the land, humbly recognizing that all honor and praise belongs to him. Thus, the eternal contract between Jared and Isabella begins. Two maids are chatting in the hallway, wondering if it's just her who thinks their lord has been acting strangely. The man who had isolated himself in his room over the past few months suddenly bursts out of it. It's odd for someone who seemed fed up with life to suddenly change after breaking his dull routine. The only time he had ever seemed happy was when he was eating. Now, he has even gone into the basement, a place they usually avoid. Hayes asks for a moment and quickly rushes between them, holding a stack of papers. The maid offers to help, but Hayes replies that she can handle it herself. The maids note that Hayes is very dedicated, but she gets yelled at by the Lord and ends up crying. They feel sorry for her. Hayes enters the library, revealing that she has brought the vassal states and surrounding territories paper. Jared asks her to stand still so he can use his mind-eye skill. He wonders how she has special multiple abilities and S-rank devotion. He should make her a healer because ignoring her as a maid will be a waste. He feels sorry because he will be too busy to think about dating her. It takes a decade of one-sided love to achieve an rank in unrequited love. He asked her to hand over the papers. While he is looking at the papers, she apologizes. He asked if something is wrong. She explains that whenever he asks her to do something, she never gets it right on the first try. He observes that she is trembling with fear. Using the mind eye, he views her memory and sees the old Jared throwing all the papers at her and walking away. But since it wasn't him who did this, he apologizes to Hayes by hugging her. He apologizes for every little thing that went wrong for her. She has never complained about his bad treatment. He promises to change and says she will not see his pathetic side again. He asks her if it has not been tiring and if she'll give him a chance to become a good lord. She begins to cry and embraces him tightly. Overwhelmed, she clings to him and will remain by his side. He expresses his gratitude, thanking her for forgiveness. He must shoulder the burden of every sin committed by the old Jared. In the dining room, Hayes gets worried about Jared that he will become faint by eating only vegetables and herbs. He says that someone as overweight as him needs this much effort to lose weight. He realizes that it tastes terrible and nobody would eat it willingly. But these vegetables have a strong dieting effect in Paradiso, and a unique impact on one's sense of fullness. Though they taste horrible, he ponders whether someone has rubbed rancid cheese under their arms and then placed it on the plate. The fat gradually starts to diminish, but he is on the verge of vomiting as he continues. Hayes presents Jared with a steak she prepared herself as a precaution. She reveals that she learned this healthier dish from the chef a while back because she was concerned about his health. She hopes that he will give her a chance, even though he previously threw it away. With tears in his eyes, he questioned how Jared could possibly raise a hand against someone so angelic. The steak tastes exceptional, completely removing the unpleasant flavor of rotten cheese from his mouth, as one would expect from an A-ranked chef. He starts remembering what he has learned today. The documents indicate that the northwest parts of the entire kingdom are captured by Caribbe territory. It is an extremely impoverished region, plagued by bandits and unable to support agriculture due to the harsh cold weather. With a rank of F, quests and events are present in abundance there, so it can be balanced out easily. He needs to focus on improving himself because he is too weak to take advantage of quests and events. Suddenly, a furious Isabella appears, demanding the return of her mind-eye back. In fear, he spits out the food and asks her why she is here. She responds by questioning how he dares to deceive her. She warns that she will continue to pester him until she reclaims her mind-eye, and to continue pursuing him till the day he dies. He now understands that the situation will be far from simple. 10 years ago, someone is forcefully knocking on the door, demanding the Lord to open it and recognizing that the death of his father is regrettable. The visitor emphasizes the importance of focusing on the future and letting go of the past, offering to support the Lord in confronting the situation. Meanwhile, young Jared, sitting beside the bed with his head bowed, reflects on his father's memory. In the present, a young man in the hallway, visibly unstable and drinking alcohol, questions why their Lord has summoned them unexpectedly, joking that it might be for the 10th anniversary celebration. He approaches Hayes and another maid, greeting her with a good morning that makes her uncomfortable. She politely greets Sir Gragas with a good morning. He questions her about her courtesy and wonders why someone as refined as she would remain in the company of the unappealing Jared. Gragas hopes that someday she might be his. A man angrily confronts Gragas from behind, demanding to know what he's thinking. He tells him to stop flirting with the women and reminds him that he's repeatedly warned him to quit his immature behavior. Hayes gets happy to see Sir Rake's Lord's vassal. Gragas questions whether he is truly trying to instruct the chief city guard on how to conduct himself. Gragas refers to him as a whipped mutt who does not know his place. Sir Rakus becomes enraged and demands to know if Gragas dares to repeat it. Gragas taunts him, asking if he has gone deaf. An old man, Sir Oberyn, arrives and instructs them to stop their fight, as their lord will be there any moment. Gragas is harsh, expressing his disgust at seeing the old man and the toothless dog still walking the halls. Rakus remains incredulous that Gragas holds the position of chief guard. Oberyn acknowledges Rakus' frustration but explains that finding a suitable replacement for Gragas is not an easy task. In the meeting room, the ministers murmur among themselves, expressing their skepticism about Jared calling a meeting on his own. They are puzzled, wondering if he has somehow lost his double chin and is actually reading the documents. They question whether the rumors of their lord's transformation are true. Gragas sets the beer bottle on the table and tells his lord has no interest in reading the tedious documents. He suggests skipping the meeting and going straight to drinks. Gragas mentions that he has brought some exceptional refreshments and hopes his lord will enjoy them. He also reveals that he has arranged for both drinks and attractive company of pretty girls. Rakus becomes furious and wonders that Gragas seduces the Lord in every single meeting so he can cover up his deeds. For the sake of Caribbe, he dares to stop him no matter what will be the consequences, but all of a sudden Jared asks Gragas how dare he show himself drunk in the meeting if he is out of mind. It is surprising to Gragas, but he laughs and asks Jared if they had not shared bottles recently. Jared does the magic missile and shatters the bottle. He will overlook the inappropriate behavior this time only. It makes Gragas furious and asks Jared if he knows the result of using magic against him. Jared questions Gragas, asking if he is content with the wealth he has accumulated through his abuse of authority over the merchants, extorting every last bit of their money. He highlights the suffering of those living in their territory due to Gragas's unrelenting greed. Jared emphasizes that such actions erode trust in his leadership, noting the illegal tax collection and human trafficking. He has learned that Gragas has even taken his subjects and trained them as his own. Jared conjures a fireball and informs him that destroying the bottle was the compensation for his misbehaving, but the severity of his misconduct demands burning his head into ashes. Gragas tries to escape, but Jared spells the fireball on him and reveals that the law must be held in place. Moreover, his body also has a desire to kill Gragas. He announces that Gragas will be removed from his position as chief guard and asserts his commitment to rooting out all corruption from the land. Suddenly, 2 ministers bow down and seek forgiveness, confessing that they have committed serious offenses. Rakis remains perplexed by this turn of events, as Gragas, known for his strength, was defeated with a single blow. He reflects that this must be the true power of magic, deeply rooted in the Euclid's family of 4th-class wizards. Rakis also believes that Jared exhibits the same level of authority and dignity as his father, Viscount Barrett. Jared announces that Rakis will be appointed as the public chief guard of Caribbe. Rakis bows down and gets on his knees, pledging that he will never defy his lord's commands. He asks if there is anyone who disagrees with his command. They all respond with a resounding no. Jared believes that he has regained some of his lost dignity, though he remains cautious and does not yet trust anyone. He notices Oberyn standing to the side and decides to proceed cautiously, taking things one step at a time. After all, he has the mind-eye to assist him. After a month in the city, a retailer begs Gragas to return his money, as he cannot continue running his business without it. Gragas brandishes a knife and tells him to remain silent, insisting that he is making too much of a fuss. He adds that this situation would not have arisen if the retailer had paid his taxes on time. 2 men are chatting, noting that Sir Gragas has not appeared for some time to collect the tax money. One speculates that he might be on a trip to a warmer location. The other advises not to spend the money, even in Gragas's absence, and to ensure it remains secure. The doorbell rings, and he asks the other to check who it is. When the door opens, Jared greets him. Confused about the identity of the overweight man, he's met with a punch from Rakis immediately afterward. Rakis asks him how he dares to address their lord with such insolence, suggesting that he might have a death wish. Jared tells him that it is acceptable to have misunderstandings, but it is unacceptable to illegally collect money from merchants. He instructs Rakis to ensure that not a single one of the wrongdoers escapes. All of them will face trial under the new chief guard. Jared uses a magic missile on a bandit who attempts to flee from the scene. The citizens express their joy and praise their lord, hailing the new chief guard, Rakis. They feel relieved to be free from the bandits. Rakis announces that, in recognizing the lord's commitment to putting his people first, they should remember that capturing the criminals is just the beginning. He urges them never to forget their lord's dedication and to remain grateful for his continued support throughout their lives. In the meeting room, Rakis reports that the public is beginning to trust the throne once again. He notices that some citizens are even writing to express their support, marking a complete success. Jared is pleased that their efforts are finally paying off. He inquires whether Rakis finds his new position and subordinates satisfactory. Rakis affirms this, thanking Jared for placing him in such a prestigious role. Jared tells Rakis that if he is satisfied, then Jared will be satisfied as well. He expresses his confidence in Rakis to ensure the well-being of the public going forward. Rakis replies with a respectful, "Yes, sir." A month after the capture of the harbor criminals, public sentiment towards the head has greatly improved. Additionally, Rakis has appointed capable soldiers, handpicked by the Mind-Eye, all of whom serve under Jared's command. This success is largely attributed to the guidance of the Mind-Eye. Isabella appears behind Jared, demanding the return of the skill. He wonders if she is truly insisting on this matter. Sir Oberyn reports that the new crops, grown using recently developed farming techniques, are progressing well. However, the threat of vermin persists due to the prolonged winter season, which lasts half of the year. Avila adds that while efforts are being made to encourage citizens to buy locally manufactured products, more time is needed to achieve the desired numbers. Jared wonders that he has to work harder because the Mind-Eye cannot assist him in these types of circumstances. He taps his belly, prompting Rakis to comment that he has noticed this gesture before and finds it quite amiable. Jared explains that it's a technique he learned from another territory to shed some extra pounds. Rakis compliments Jared, saying he looks more like a king now that he is losing weight. Jared privately acknowledges that this is not entirely true. In reality, the gesture is not a dieting method but a trick to increase his mana reserves. After channeling mana through both of his hands, he reabsorbs it back into his body to enhance his reserves. In Paradiso, this method is not officially recognized as a bug. After a month of using this technique, it has the same effect as increasing his mana level by 12. As a 4th-class magician, he realizes he can only perform this technique about 1 to 2 more times. A guard abruptly enters the room to report that the search initiated by Jared has uncovered a bandit camp and discovered slaves working in the coal mines. A year goes by. We see two men practicing with their swords. From a distance, a girl observes them. Noting their skill, two individuals approach her and inquire why she is always watching. They warn her that lingering in the area could get her into trouble. She refers to them as her brother and sister. Her elder sister cautions her that idling around could lead to trouble. Lena, the girl, assures them that it's fine because she is quicker than the other kids. Her sister then asks if Lena is 14, suggesting that she will soon begin working as a maid in the Lord's mansion. Lena views the job as enjoyable because she will be looked after by the director, who cares for orphans like her. Her sister expresses disappointment, saying she had hoped Lena would consider joining their mercenary group instead. Lena asks if they believe a girl like her could become a great swordsman, even if it takes time. She reveals that she would rather pursue becoming a swordsman than work as a maid. Her brother laughs and tells her that mercenary groups are rarely joined by women. He draws his sword and explains that it's far too dangerous to enter this world with such an idealistic mindset. Many people quit right away, and others are confronted with the harsh reality of death. He tells her that gender doesn't matter. What truly counts is spirit, will, talent, and effort. He removes his gloves to reveal his calloused hands and informs her that she possesses more talent than anyone else, which is why he believes she will succeed. Her sister pats Lena on the head and reassures her that if things don't work out, she will use her influence to ensure Lena is hired immediately. She comforts Lena, saying they will always be there for her. Lena smiles and replies, "Okay." Despite this, Lena eventually ends up becoming a slave. She reflects her memory with the director in the orphanage where he asked her to give all to the orphanage because she is a God-given angel. One of the bandits reveals that it's the director who sold her to them. She becomes furious, saying that he is lying, and the director promises her to make a noble maid. They joke about her, saying that she is their slave. One of the bandits begins to strike her with a flogger, saying that the status of an orphan and a slave are different, so she must speak with respect. Lena does not believe in any of his words and proclaims that he is at fault. The director would never do that. It has been a month since she was sold into slavery. Aside from the occasional punishment, most of her time is spent behind bars. A fellow girl asks Lena if she is from Mayora. If that is the case, then she is bound to become a slave from the beginning. Lena asks her what she means. She reveals that orphans in Mayora are sold as slaves. That is what the order says of the lord of that territory. She is certainly sure that the head of Lena's orphanage was among those involved and advises Lena to give up hope. Lena responds that it does not matter what will be the circumstances, but she will find a way to get out of this and will never admit defeat. The girl taunts Lena that she's amusing. Lena asks her if she does not want to get rid of this. Mani responds to Lena that she never thought about it, but offers her friendship till they die in this hell. Lena believes that's a terrible way to talk, but she is only trying to be honest regarding the situation. Another month goes by, and Mani and Lena quickly become friends. Slaves of their age are hard to find, and many of the other slaves seem like lifeless puppets. These slaves are sold quickly, no matter what their physical condition is. Luckily, Mani and Lena are still safe as they wait for their chance to be sold at the peak age of 15. Lena proclaims that she will not give up. Half a year has passed, and she has gotten used to the hard labor. During this time, Mani has taught her about the world outside their situation. Mani believes that the condition is getting worse because of the severity of the weather and their unprofessional young leader. Whenever Lena inquires about Mani's extensive knowledge, Mani always replies that she overhears things from the guards because of her keen hearing. While Mani is making the soup, tells Lena that her elder siblings will not show up because there's not a lot of jobs for Merc in Caribbe, and they are geared only towards monster hunters. Lena thanks her for reminding, but she will never admit defeat. Mina tells Lena that she is the most willful slave she has ever met, and this thing admires her. 1 year has passed, and they are finally 15 years old. Due to severe cold weather, Mina caught a fever and is burning up. She will get in a lot of trouble if she doesn't get help. The bandit sitting in front of their cage reveals that they are stuck in the underground because of that idiot Glagas who trusts that fat noble. Lena gets on her knees and begs for a soup bowl for Mina, and entrusts him that she will never disobey them any longer. He notices Lena and hands a bowl of soup to Mina. Lena advises her to drink it quickly before it gets cold. He then wraps his arms around Lena, indicating they have something to take care of while Mina finishes her meal. Lena reassures Mina that she'll be alright. He presses Lena's face, implying that, as a servant, she should know her place. Suddenly, Mina throws the hot soup at the bandit's face and urges Lena to run. She becomes furious with Lena for risking everything over a bowl of soup. Mina reminds her that she's not a slave and doesn't care about anyone else, but she can't let Lena be treated that way. The bandit, recovering from the scalding soup, demands to know if they are sworn to leave. He questioned where they thought they were going. He slashes Mina with the knife. Lena, enraged, punches him and rushes to Mina's side, tears streaming down her face as she asks why Mina took the knife for her. Gasping in pain, Mina reveals that her life has always been harsh. Raised among bandits, she's been surrounded by robbery and murder her entire life. That's all she's ever known. Despite being an orphan, Lena had a dream. Although she didn't like her at first, she has come to envy her. Mina confesses that she wanted to protect Lena because she admires her resilience and urges her to never give up. Lena promises Mina that no matter what happens, she will find a way to escape this hell. Lena, with teary eyes, vows that she will kill every single bandit there. Gargus throws Lena to the floor, his rage boiling over as he demands to know who the hell she thinks she is going to kill. He demands Lena to look at his face and see what her friend has done to it. He threatens that he might just kill her for being so annoying. A voice interrupts, asking if he really calls it a burn. He glances to the side, and a burst of flame turns him to ashes. Jared arrives just in time to save the girl's life. Jared and Rakus arrive at the Alumni mines, where Jared reveals that this is the hideout. Rakus curiously asks his lord how he knew about their whereabouts. Jared explains that with their leader Graga's gone, an abandoned mine like this is the perfect place for them to lay low until things calm down. Rakus, donning his guard helmet, praises Jared for his keen insight, complimenting him on his strategic acumen. With a nod of approval, Jared turns his attention to his army. He rallies them with a motivating speech, urging them to bring an end to the presence of these slavers in the mines and restore peace. He encourages his troops to uphold the true meaning of justice. He commands them to rescue the enslaved within the mine and ensure that no slaver remains alive. They advance into the depths of the mine, fighting for the glory of Caribbe. The bandits come under fierce attack and quickly realize they need to gather their forces and urgently contact Boss Ched. Meanwhile, Rakus and the other soldiers diligently carry out their duty, ensuring no Duel escapes from the mine. After securing its front portion, Jared and his forces discover additional passages. He commands a thorough sweep of the entire mine, emphasizing that no bandit should be left unaccounted for. During the operation, Jared arrives just in time to save a girl from a slaver who is about to kill her, and he swiftly eliminates the threat by dispatching the slaver to severe burn. Jared, having seen slave encampments in the game, finds it revolting to face the grim reality firsthand. He approaches the girl with concern and asks if she is alright. Lena, her voice heavy with grief, replies that she is, but her friend did not survive while trying to protect her. Jared gazes at Mina's lifeless body, attempting to heal her with magic, but it is too late. He embraces Lena, expressing deep regret that they could not save her friend sooner. As he holds her, he reflects on the hardships she has endured, noting her slim frame and gnarled fingers, being struck by the immense suffering she has faced. Soon, a drunken Ched stumbles onto the scene, enraged and demanding to know what's going on. He's curious about who's responsible for the chaos, but quickly realizes it's the fat Caribbean leader. He warns Jared to stay out of his affairs. Jared, unimpressed, asks Ched if he's forgotten how to speak to his lord despite his life as a miner. Jared then warns Ched that he'll catch him alone and immediately threatens to kill him. Ched laughs, dismissing the threat, saying Jared's magic won't be enough to take him down. Ched attacks Jared with a lightning spell. In response, Jared uses a haste technique, a basic spell that speeds up his body. Because it's hard to control one's movements under the spell, many magicians avoid using it. Ched becomes confused and wonders what kind of self-respecting magician would use such a spell. Jared is running in a fast circle around Ched. He mutters to himself that it will be difficult for Jared to change direction while moving so quickly. He decides to destroy everything around him, but suddenly magic spells from different directions hit him. Jared calls him an idiot for thinking about such a spell because, in drunk conditions, a high-level spell leaves him open. Jared could not be more upset by how terrible the boss is. The game notifies that loyalty is raised to 100 points, and Caribbe will enter a golden era now. With Ched's death, the situation was rapidly brought under control. All those involved in the kidnappings and murders were quickly executed. The former slaves were safely reunited with their families under the careful supervision of a public escort. Lena asks Jared if she is allowed to stay in Caribbean territory. He finds it a great idea because if she is sent back to the orphanage, she will get sold again by the director. He reveals to her that he is seeking a young, hard-working individual to assist him in the future. He expresses his gratitude if she agrees to join him, and promises to make her a great swordsman. Lena is delighted, thanks him, and vows to meet his expectations. He is surprised to find that he is meeting Lena Gissel herself. Over the next 10 years, during the Great Stallion War, Lena is destined to become a formidable vanguard for the Demon King. Even when hundreds of opponents unleash their full strength against her, she will simply smile and refuse to move, establishing herself as the ultimate tank. Known as the Wailing Wall, Lena's fortresses will be renowned for being impregnable, earning her a reputation as an accomplished guardian. Jared takes her hand and uses healing magic to mend her wounds. He feels a deep sense of satisfaction at having met Lena, and resolves not to let the Demon King harm her. Jared promises to make her a rising star in his territory, and to prepare her for the coming war. He is concerned about Mallorca, whose lord permits illegal slave trading, and likely supports other unlawful activities as well. He fears that Mallorca's actions will negatively impact his territory. He wonders where Hargos, the lord of Mallorca, is spending all that money. Meanwhile, in Mallorca, Hargos complains that the compliments directed at the lord of Caribbe are as irritating as a buzzing mosquito. He asks Frua's opinion on the matter, being Gragas' friend. Frua replies that he will handle the situation and seeks to avenge his close friend. At night, a figure sneaks into the territory of Caribbe, jumping from roof to roof before tossing a sack onto the city street. The next morning, Jared and Lena are running under the guidance of a trainer, who announces that they are on their final lap. Out of breath, Jared asks Lena if running in the morning makes her happy. Lena, filled with joy, replies that the mines were too narrow and smelly for running. Jared acknowledges their hard work for the day and decides to schedule the exercise more frequently. He also mentions that he will find a new trainer. In the dining room, while Jared is eating the vegetables and herbs, Hayes comes to deliver him a letter from Sir Oberyn and Isabella that arrived in the morning. Lena, sitting next to Jared, asks about what information he received. Jared tells Lena that he will summarize the letter for their easy understanding. He reveals that Sir Oberyn has managed to cultivate a crop called Latriella successfully because much of their food is imported from other territories, so it will help them to minimize the expenses in a meager amount, while Avila managed to bring the monster hunters 1.5 times more than the normal amount and is selling the mana crystals received from them. Jared informs Lena that they have made twice the normal profit as compared to the previous month's numbers. Lena tells Jared that she's heard that Caribbe is on the verge of collapse, but being here, she finds the place amazing. He responds that the situation is now getting better, and soon the whole continent will be under Caribbe's territory. Rakis appears there and informs Jared that there is something urgent that he should notice. On the city street, Jared asked Rakis if it was found this morning. Rakis responds with a yes, and informs Jared that it's also found in different areas of the territory. Jared wonders who will throw the monster's corpse inside their territory. Rakis feels gloomy and thinks that he should have been more diligent in his work. Jared, sitting near the corpse and observing it, asked Rakis not to feel sad about it as nobody is harmed in this incident. Things like this are bound to happen because Caribbe has no surrounding walls for protection. He'd assure that the culprit must be an outsider because public loyalty is not questionable, but the question is, what do they earn from this? Suddenly, they hear a child's desperate cries for her mother, pleading for help and offering to sell herself for money. Jared and Rakis rush to the scene where a young girl clings to a man, screaming. The man, looking down at her, says he doesn't have the medicine she needs and urges her to give up. Jared grabs their attention by asking the child's name and inquiring about the type of medicine she needs. Tears streaming down her face, the girl introduces herself as Maya and reveals that her mother has contracted Runella's disease. she explains to Jared that all the pharmacists have refused to sell her the crucial herbs needed for a cure. The man, trembling, drops to his knees and insists he's done nothing wrong, adding that Ronella's disease is impossible to cure. Jared reflects that Ronella's disease can be cured with a pontifex blessing and a powerful potion from the Ethema Empire. He notes that the disease is similar to tuberculosis and takes its name from the Ronella territory where it was first discovered, a region known for its underground dungeons filled with monsters. Jared calmly asks her to take him to her mother and tells her that he knows how to cure Ronella's disease. Mia takes Jared home and mentions that her mother is staying on the second floor. Jared wonders if the stairs can bear his weight because the place seems to be worn out. Mia rushes to her mother, Mary, and reassures her that she has brought someone who can help. Mary, barely able to open her eyes, apologizes to the doctor for being unable to pay him. A notification warns that Mary has only 7 months left. Jared, uncertain if this is a death sentence, he tells her to relax and clarifies that he does not require payment. Mia reveals to Mary that Jared is not a doctor but their lord, who has come to assist them. Mary recognizes Jared and acknowledges that it's been a long time since they last met. Jared asks if they know each other, and Mary confirms, explaining that she was hired as his personal chef 8 years ago. He apologizes if he caused any offense during his younger years. He sits beside Mary, but she asks him to keep his distance, worried he might catch the illness. Jared reassures her that it's not a concern and asks Mia to fetch a damp towel. As Jared opens the side window, he spots a monster's corpse in the backyard, just as he had suspected. He inquires if Mary has been dealing with monsters for a while. Mary explains that she used to work as a chef for a high-ranked expedition team that sold monster appendages. Jared reflects that the disease doesn't spread through human contact but can be transmitted through exposure to monster corpses. It is hard to notice because it shows no symptoms until it's advanced. He tells Mary that while she has managed the disease until now, her contact with the corpse has worsened her condition. Mary asks who could be behind such actions and whether she will die. Hayes and Lena reach there with the medicinal herbs that he requested. He asks Mary to trust him and assures her that he won't leave her side until she recovers. Mary, with gratitude in her eyes, thanks the Lord and inquires about how she can repay him. Jared smiles and tells her to focus on getting better first, and they can discuss repayment later. The culprit is sitting on the roof just above the window listening to all the conversation and calls them an idiot for trying to treat an incurable disease. Rake is standing behind the culprit, furiously asserts that their lord has been correct so far and that, just as predicted, the culprit has returned to the crime scene. Rakis glares at him, accusing him of being a scoundrel and demanding to know if he is the one spreading the Ronella virus through the corpses. The culprit responds with a question, asking Rakis why he is so interested. As Jared and Hayes prepare the medicine, Hayes is surprised that the herbs are so common, wondering how they could possibly cure such a serious disease. Jared recalls a cure he found on a blog by an unknown herbalist, shared after a debate among other herbalists over the right to treat the disease. This recipe, meant to be discovered 10 years later, now allows Jared to treat the illness. Mary asks Jared why a noble like him would put so much effort into helping a commoner. Jared replies that understanding another's suffering requires experiencing pain oneself. When Mary asks if he ever had the Ronella virus, Jared admits he's always been healthy and surrounded by love. He holds Mary's hand, mentioning her mother's love. Jared recalls his past life, where his family was so poor that his mother couldn't afford a thorough medical checkup when she fell ill. By the time they finally made it to the hospital, it was too late. His mother had lost the use of her hands and was in the final stages of terminal cancer. Jared's feelings were more of anger than sorrow. He was furious with himself for not being able to resolve such a dire situation. Even after more than 15 years, he still holds himself responsible for that day. He's here now because he understands how Mia feels. Jared doesn't want her to experience the same anguish she did, the pain of losing her mother. Meanwhile, a battle is raging between Rakis and the assassin. As the assassin strikes, Rakis narrowly avoids death. The assassin halts Rakis' attacks, noting that he is using an excessive amount of force. If he targets Rakis' vital points, he could end the fight quickly. The assassin kicks at Rakis' head, but he dodges the attack effortlessly. The assassin is stunned to find that his strikes are having no effect. Rakis, enraged, demands to know how the assassin dares to challenge Caribbe with such skill. Rakis swings his sword, aiming to kill the assassin, but he leaps high to evade. The assassin is surprised by Rakis' strength, realizing they never informed that the public guard chief was so formidable. He wonders the source of such power. Rakis' strength, evident in his one-on-one battle with the assassin, comes from his unique traits. When facing evil adversaries, his strong sense of order and justice boosts his physical abilities beyond normal limits. Since the person on the roof is already identified as a villain, he will never be able to overcome Rakis. Rakis warns the assassin to come with him, as it's clear he cannot defeat him. The assassin responds by saying that Rakis has surprised him. He had thought he could kill Rakis once he found him, but now he's decided to give up. The assassin starts to leave, saying he'll retreat for now, but Rakis, furious, demands to know who gave him permission to leave. The assassin laughs and tells Rakis not to worry, as they will meet again. He reveals his face to Rakis and tells him to finish this next time they cross paths. Rakis is shocked to see him and wonders where this idiot came from. The assassin vanishes into a thickening fog. 2 weeks later, Mia is in a room with a magician. He asks her to watch closely as he demonstrates the merging technique. He explains that by using this method, he can gather the mana into a concentrated form through a condensing process. Mia asks the magician why he doesn't just focus on studying one method if both techniques work in the same way. He explains that many people think that way initially. However, an evil magician can disrupt the surrounding mana, making it impossible for a mage who relies on the merging method to use their magic effectively, leaving them vulnerable and ineffective. Mia becomes frightened after hearing that magicians might be unable to use their spells. She thinks it's a terrible situation. The magician explains that studying both methods is essential, even though it's challenging. She responds that she understands but is curious about the strange costume he's wearing. When he removes the costume and fake mustache, it turns out to be Jared. He asks Mia if the disguise seems odd and clarifies that he was trying to look like a magic teacher. He comments on her honesty as they hear the sound of food being prepared. Mia rushes to eat, but Jared tries to stop her, reminding her that the class isn't over yet. Mary enters the room, asking if she's interrupting Jared. He laughs and assures her it's fine, expressing curiosity about what Chef Mary has prepared. She smiles and hopes that the dishes will meet Jared's expectations. He advises Mary to rest more instead of working constantly. Mary replies that she feels better because Jared takes care of her. Fitting Jared dietary meal plans, she mentions that today's main course is bean steak. As they leave the room, Isabella appears and notices that Jared is different. As Jared sits in the room, he muses aloud about how people often seek shortcuts in life. He reflects on how some might use them to boost their mana by a few levels temporarily, but those who rely on such tricks are ultimately weaker. The game then notifies him that he has successfully created a new training method and prompts him to name it. Jared considers that true successors are those who forge their own paths. His new mana training technique, which combines elements of both bugged and traditional mage methods, increases spell levels by 6 points. Jared realizes that this method is his unique contribution to the world and feels it deserves a symbolic name. He thinks about how, as a bug player, he's the only one truly taking advantage of the world's potential. Just then, Isabella appears, her tone playful as she remarks that she has observed many magicians over the years, but none with Jared's distinctive style. He asks if she can spot any flaws in his method. She replies that she can, although most people wouldn't notice them. She points out that despite the cheating, Jared is still drawing in mana at an unusually high rate. She moves closer and menacingly inquires if he is from this area. Jared nervously asks what she means. He feels relieved when Isabella explains that she is curious if he is from another continent, as she has heard that people from the eastern continent are also skilled at absorbing mana. Jared laughs and says that if she's mentioned it, he's heard a similar story from his ancestors that closely resembles that myth. Jared reflects to himself that the eastern continent was a massive expansion project for Paradiso that was in development for over 5 years. He had been looking forward to it, but it's a shame he died before it was released. Isabella asks Jared what he's thinking about and adds that there are so many intriguing things around him, which makes her even more curious. Isabella tells him that they should take it easy when talking to each other, reminding him that he's the only one who can see her. Isabella opens his eyes, and Jared reminds her that the mind's eye is his. In a flirtatious tone, she suggests forgetting about the mind's eye and consider it as a wedding gift for her future husband. She mentions that, although she found him unpleasant to look at initially, he has now lost some weight and is much easier on the eyes. Jared, looking alarmed, asks Isabella if that's why she's been staring at him so intently while he was asleep. Isabella moves closer and suggests that if he's this type of man, it shouldn't be an issue for a virgin like her to consider him as a partner. She then reminds him about his first kiss. Panicked, he rushes out of the room, claiming he needs to head to the run on the territory. In the cart, reading the letter from Sir Rakis, Hayes reveals how much Lena has achieved at such a young age. Her potential is so impressive that Rakis is astonished that Jared found her with just one eye. Rakis believes he'll have nothing to teach her in a month or two. Hayes, delighted, asks if this is the report Sir Rakis sent. Jared smiles and notes that the title of the strongest person in Caribbe will soon be outdated in a month, highlighting Lena's exceptional talent. He tells Hayes to inform Rakis that he will find a suitable teacher for Lena soon and muses about having a few strong candidates for the position. Suddenly, an arrow shatters the cart window, prompting Jared to protect Hayes with a magic shield. The guards quickly become alert, ready to defend their lord at all costs. As a rain of arrows begins, Jared creates a shield to protect himself and Hayes. He thinks that it is the work of bandits, but they think arrows alone are enough. Hayes steps in front of Jared, insisting she should protect him and that it is her utmost responsibility. Jared questions her recklessness, warning her that stepping out would only result in her being struck by arrows and potentially dying. He orders Hayes to stay inside the carriage, furiously telling her that if she comes out, he will kill her himself. He steps out of the carriage, his fury evident, and demands to know who are the idiots shooting arrows at them. The guard urgently warns him that it is too dangerous to be outside. Isabella then appears, offering her help, but Jared refuses, insisting that he could handle it himself. Jared advanced toward the bandits, creating a magic shield for protection. One of the bandits reports to their leader that it's a magician. Their leader, Tog, a notorious magician murderer, responds that he is sure a magician was riding with them. That's why the masked man requested help from their service. Jared wonders if this masked man is the same one Rakis described before. Tog advances toward Jared with disdain, declaring that magicians are worthless. He notices a newbie among them and vows to demonstrate how things are done. Tog unleashes a rotational slashing technique, but Jared dodges effortlessly. Confident, he proclaims that such tricks are futile and strikes at Jared with his wand. Jared blocks the blow with his shield, acknowledging that Tog's title isn't just for show. Tog then launches a flurry of strikes, all of which Jared evades. As he observes Jared's casting speed, Tog begins to suspect that Jared is a fourth-class magician or higher. Concerned that he might counterattack, Tog resolves to deplete Jared's mana instead. During Tog's relentless assault, Jared seizes his wand, recognizing it as an artifact used exclusively by magicians. A pang of disappointment strikes Jared, realizing he lacks such an artifact of his own, but he decides to take Tog's for himself. Trembling with fear, Tog wonders if Jared has always been this formidable. Jared reveals that he has neutralized all the body-strengthening magic Tog relied on. With growing curiosity about the masked man, Jared inquires if Tog will share any information. Shaken, he pleads for his life in exchange for the details. Jared laughs, eager to hear what Tog has to say, but suddenly attacks with a double-edged axe, declaring that he doesn't trust criminals. A boy named Aki, currently in Tog's possession, mutters to himself that the old saying, "A penniless merchant can't buy his own luck," has always rung true, and he's living proof of it. He scolds himself for hiring cheap, ineffective bodyguards, lamenting his foolishness in trusting them against someone like Tog. Aki overhears about a medicinal merchant. Noting his wealth, Tog predicts that he must have numerous bodyguards, all of whom are just waiting to be slaughtered by his axe. At this moment, a masked man appears and hands Tog an initial payment, promising the remaining 66% upon completing the job. Tog reminds him to ensure the full payment is ready. The masked man reflects on Caribbe's success in curing most of its citizens and muses that it shouldn't be too difficult to identify the ingredients used in the cure. He reasons that naturally they would head to Runala to profit from the cure. The masked man leads Tog to the road where Jared is expected to pass. Tog questions if Jared will really take this route, but the masked man assures him that the scout's information is undeniably accurate. Aki, watching from a distance, mutters to himself that murderers have already killed 11 people in a week and wonders if this is just another day for Tog. He despairs, thinking there might be no one strong enough to stop him. In the encounter between Jared and Tog, Jared decisively kills Tog. As Tog's army becomes nervous and disorganized, Jared swiftly apprehends them. Observing from a distance, Aki thinks that the shining knight in armor has finally arrived. Jared saves Aki, who embraces him gratefully, thanking him for saving his life. Jared, a bit taken aback, appreciates Aki's thanks but asks him to maintain a little more distance. Aki apologizes, explaining that his emotions have taken over. Jared then inquires if it's true that Aki was ambushed on his way to Caribbe after hearing about the recent success in the magic stone market. Aki simply responds, "Yes." Jared apologizes for the lack of safety around their border, noting that few people actually come and go. Aki smiles and reassures him not to worry, admitting that he thought he was going to die before Jared arrived. Jared recognizes him as a top NPC, understanding that Aki's innate ability to analyze and predict future market trends has allowed him to pioneer changes and control the expansion of the surrounding market. Jared wonders if Aki is supposed to be in their territory and is curious about what someone at the top of the market would be doing in the northern region. Acknowledging Aki's distress over losing his wealth, Jared offers him a role as his selling manager in the Runella territory, promising 15% of all profits. Aki considers Jared's offer and, realizing that Jared is among the top NPCs, decides to make a fair deal to gain his goodwill and secure his recruitment. Aki asks Jared to grant him 2 wishes instead of the 15% profit. He assures Jared that if he trusts him, he will find the perfect location to set up shop. Jared agrees but warns Aki that he may have to deny his wishes depending on the situation. Aki mutters to himself that if his instincts are correct, Jared will likely agree to his requests. Aki then reveals his first wish, that Jared calls him by his name, Aki, from now on. He says he will share his second wish later. After some time, they arrive in the Runella territory. Hayes remarks that she has always thought the Runella territory was a drag. Aki responds that many people share that opinion, but no one in their right mind would turn down the lucrative rewards available in the local dungeons. He adds that there is significant potential for growth in Runella, especially once the disease is cured. Jared thanks Aki for finding a prime location to sell their goods. Aki, feeling a bit shy, replies that he is simply trying to repay his lord with honesty. He mentions that the place still has room for improvement. Noticing Jared standing near a drum containing a potion, Aki asks if it is the cure for the Runella disease. Jared responds, "Not yet." Jared begins the process of filling bottles with the potion. The game promptly notifies him that the production of rare medicine, derived from medicinal herbs, has been completed. Due to the potency of this rare medicine, Jared's skill has advanced to level 2. Additionally, he reaches his daily limit for skill development, meaning no further proficiency gains can be achieved for the next 24 hours. Jared acknowledges that this outcome is in line with his expectations. His skill advancement for the day is limited. He recalls that at the beginning of his gameplay, it had taken several months to increase his proficiency before he became aware of a game bug that impacted skill progression. Jared hands the medicine over to Aki for sale and instructs him to ensure customers are informed about it. A customer named Talon, who has Runella disease, approaches and begins negotiating with Aki, questioning if the medicine truly costs only 1 gold. Aki responds calmly, explaining that the special price is a gesture of goodwill. Talon then asks if it's a scam, to which Aki replies, "Do I really look like a liar?" Talon hands Aki the gold, stating that if he's truly on the brink of death, then 1 gold is meaningless. Aki presents a contract for Talon to sign to finalize the purchase. Curious, Talon wonders if signing the contract is necessary and if it will grant him ownership of the medicine. He signs the contract and drinks the potion. Jared informs Talon that the medicine should start taking effect in about 30 minutes and advises him to rest. He mentions that he bought the medicine based on his trust in Aki and warns that if it's a scam, he will be very disappointed. Jared smiles and assures him that if the medicine doesn't work, he will provide a refund of 1,000 gold and bet his entire hand on its effectiveness. With that, Talon leaves, Aki informs Jared that he will lay some bait before they officially begin selling their goods. Meanwhile, Jared continues filling more bottles. The game notifies him that, due to the potency of the rare medicine, his skills have advanced to level 3. It also reminds him that he has reached his daily limits for skill advancement. Jared is pleased to see that the ownership transfer bug has worked. In Paradiso, the production of medicine is linked to the user's proficiency. For potent medicines like this, a 24-hour penalty is typically applied to prevent further experience gains. However, when ownership of the medicine changes, all data associated with it, except for the earned proficiency, is transferred to the new owner. Essentially, the 24-hour penalty affects the customer rather than the original producer. 2 hours later, Jared begins to wonder about Aki's delay. Suddenly, a large crowd surges toward their stall, with Aki among them. Hayes gets scared and questions if Aki and Talon are part of the group. The crowd is furious, demanding the medicine and starting to fight among themselves. The crowd's excitement intensifies as they speculate that if Caribbe has developed such a medicine, it must be a divine blessing. They also note that even the Fat Lord has finally come to his senses. Aki announces that he will be selling the medicine at this location for the day and instructs those who wish to purchase it later to head to Caribbe. He explains that monster hunters rarely venture into Caribbe's nightmare forest due to the abundance of monsters, making it a prime hunting ground. Additionally, Caribbe is the most affordable producer of the medicine. Aki reveals that each bottle will be sold for only 39 gold, highlighting that medicine from the Itima Empire costs 100 gold, making this option less than half the price. He urges the crowd to get in line to make their purchases. On a snowy night, Hayes sleeps peacefully in bed while Jared sits on the balcony, rocking in his chair and flipping a coin. Resting his feet on the table, he reflects on their day's earnings minus 12,250 gold, which is roughly 122 billion Korean won. As he suspected, monster hunters are quite wealthy. Suddenly, Aki snatches the coin from him and asks if Jared is satisfied with today's haul. Jared, surprised to see Aki still awake, tells him he should be sleeping. He chuckles and mentions that he came to use his last wish. Jared recalls Aki's wish and permits him to state it. Taking a deep breath, he expresses his desire to become Jared's vassal and run a trading company in Jared's name. He straightens up and asks for clarification, emphasizing that it's under his name. Aki confirms this, then kneels with respect, acknowledging that he is young and inexperienced in trade. However, he promises that if given the opportunity, he will establish the best trading company in the entire northern region. Jared, intrigued by Aki's confidence despite having recently been completely robbed of his belongings, responds thoughtfully. He admits he had already been considering Aki as a vassal due to his performance, but warns that it's not an easy position to attain. Jared explains that being the deputy of trade is akin to being the heart of Caribbe's commerce, a role that cannot be taken lightly. Aki acknowledges this, though he looks somewhat disappointed. After a moment, Jared recalls his promise to fulfill Aki's wishes and reassures him. Aki's worries vanish, replaced by a sense of relief. Jared praises Aki for recognizing the potential of Caribbe's growth, for his boldness and determination in seeking such a prominent position, and most importantly for his good fortune, as the position is still available. These qualities, Jared notes, are highly favorable. Aki expresses his gratitude, to which Jared casually responds, "No worries." He informs Aki that they will be heading back tomorrow and advises him to get some rest. Gazing at the moon from the balcony, Jared muses that the warm spring breeze is finally beginning to dispel the chill of their land. Due to a production bug, Jared's potion creation and medicinal herb mixing skills have reached level 35. As a reward, 2 new abilities have been unlocked: automated production and the creation of intermediate mana potions. With an automated system costing 5,000 gold and 10 mana stones, he can now produce 24 bottles of medicine per day. Overall, the daily revenue exceeds 900 gold, with each bottle of medicine selling for 39 gold. Since this cure is exclusive to their territory, many monster hunters have flocked to their land, inadvertently beginning to hunt in the Nightmare Forest. As the production rates of the Caribbean magic stone increased, the number of people adversely affected by the beasts decreased. With rumors of the cure and the magic stones spreading, merchants from the Ta district have visited their territory to secure additional benefits. Caribbe, as it stands now, has far exceeded Jared's plans. thriving through such positive feedback loops. The spread of knowledge about the cure has made Caribbe renowned across the continent. While riding his horse, Jared chats with Isabella, who questions him about where he is heading alone. She warns him about venturing into a barren, cold place, wondering aloud if he is planning to kill himself, and pleads with him not to. She tells him he looks amazing and expresses a desire not to see him become a ghost. Confused, Jared asks what she is talking about, explaining that he is merely on his way to take down Lich. He requests that she not blow things out of proportion and put an end to her worries. In a fit of anger, she calls him crazy and insists that taking on a Lich is even more dangerous. She reveals that a Lich is a cursed, incredibly powerful black mage, warning that if he gets caught, his soul will be stolen, turning him into one of the undead. Jared challenges this notion, questioning whether is truly capable of defeating him, especially when he has mastered every aspect of his strategy. is a Lich sealed in an elaborate sanctum of his own creation. During the Great War in Paradiso, he gained immortality after being released from his seal by the Demon King. All users were required to progress through a specific storyline in the main plot called The Wrath of Lich. Jared adds that when regains his strength, he will become a true immortal, immune to sword magic, making it imperative for Jared to deal with him before that happens. He reveals that it is possible to kill using divine powers. Isabella, finding Jared's knowledge peculiar, muses that he seems to know an extraordinary amount, and wonders if he could be a god pretending to be human or some other kind of supernatural being. Jared dismisses her speculation, calling her an idiot and insisting that such a notion is impossible. Later, Jared arrives at the sanctum of Lich. In a cave-like structure, he begins searching for something, commenting on the difficulty of locating such a small opening and pondering whether it might have disappeared over time. Amused, Isabella finds it endearing, comparing Jared to a dog searching for a bone. She curiously asks what he is doing. He explains that normally, anyone trying to reach would have to climb a mountain filled to the brim with traps, making it nearly impossible to navigate. He points out frozen human statues, noting that they were frozen to death, and mentions a secret entrance. Eventually, he finds it and passes through the wall. Isabella, shocked, calls out Jared's name. Jared reflects that this path is likely thanks to a bug he discovered himself, a small gap left during the map's creation. He appreciates the bug as it provides him with a way to take down He introduces Isabella to secret treasure room, which she finds fascinating. Amazed, she asks if it's all treasure, noting the abundance. Jared explains that this was originally intended as a reward for any group that managed to defeat enough to be divided among them, with at least 10 artifacts included. Suddenly, Jared exclaims that he has found what he was looking for and shows her the mischievous glutton, Melt. She questions if it's just a ring, to which Jared reveals it's much more, an infinitely large pocket dimension backpack. Isabella expresses concern about stealing the Lich's belongings, admitting that even as an evil spirit, she can't win against a Lich. Jared questions her use of the word stealing, arguing that all of this treasure consists of items stole after killing their original owners. He suggests that they are avenging all the people murdered. Isabella, intrigued, asks if Jared is enjoying this. The cursed black mage, Lich appears, bound by chains on his throne. He mutters that because of a cursed saint, he has lost his life force and is confined to this throne for eternity. Once he breaks free from his seal, he vows to turn the humans on Daruk into undead and let them suffer forever. Suddenly, Jared appears beside places his hand on the Lich's head, and admonishes him, saying that if he is in timeout, he should be reflecting on himself rather than concocting evil schemes. Taken aback, asks who Jared is. Jared responds by casting fire magic on and declares that he is the man who will become the world's hero. As skeletal form burns, he rephrases his question, inquiring again where Jared came from and how he managed to bypass all of magic and traps to reach him. A Lich is a mage who has forsaken their humanity and magic in exchange for eternal life and immense power. Without a physical form, they rely on a vessel containing a life force to project a magical avatar composed of energy, which they control from a distance. However, a formidable Lich, has lost his life force vessel to a saint, binding his soul to a single body. Severely weakened, should die now, resurrection would be impossible. As Jared confronts Deluc, he remains cautious, aware of the danger posed by its life-absorbing black magic. Jared has faced and unsealed Deluc numerous times before. Jared unleashes a lightning arrow at Deluc, but the Lich easily deflects it with a shield, mocking the attack as weak. Suddenly, Deluc is hit by a rapid succession of powerful spells, catching him off guard. Bewildered, he wonders how Jared could possibly sustain such potent magic. Even if he generously rates Jared's abilities at a third-class level, the sheer amount of energy being channeled far exceeds that. Growing suspicious, Deluc begins to speculate if Jared has somehow acquired a divine artifact, perhaps the very one stolen from the saint who once defeated him. Noticing the rings on Jared's finger, Deluc marvels, wondering if Jared has indeed discovered his hidden treasures. Realizing that he does not know Jared but sensing a significant threat, Deluc decides it is best not to prolong the encounter. In a swift movement, Jared shatters Deluc's shield and lunges forward, taunting the Lich to treat him, a junior mage, with respect. He casts a powerful fire spell, believing that continuous magical attacks will keep Deluc's defenses occupied. Jared knows he lacks a single decisive move to defeat Deluc in one blow, but he is confident that if he maintains this relentless assault, victory will be his. As his onslaught continues, Deluc observes him intently, almost as if Jared can see through him. However, Deluc declares that this is his territory and commands his knights to act against the intruder who has dared to breach their master's domain. Isabella, sensing danger, alerts Jared to the presence of the undead. He acknowledges this calmly, realizing that the undead guarding the traps have been activated. He speculates that Deluc's behavior is unusual because he has not yet resurrected. Enraged, Deluc vows to make Jared pay for reopening old wounds he had long forgotten. With the divine flames now extinguished, Deluc is prepared to face Jared in earnest. Facing the undead knights, Jared knows he must stop Deluc from casting high-level spells, even if it means resorting to hand-to-hand combat. Before he can act, Isabella steps forward, offering to take on the undead herself. She transforms into a towering knight and swiftly obliterates Deluc's forces with ease. She confidently declares that while she may not be beautiful, her strength is undeniable, encouraging Jared to focus on the Lich. Furiously, Deluc retaliates with a powerful spell, questioning how a mere spirit dares to interfere. Jared praises Isabella's efforts and then casts a lightning spear that pierces Deluc's chest. He follows up with a barrage of lightning attacks, but Deluc counters with a dark wall, vowing not to fall for the same trick twice. Deluc is stunned as he watches Jared's spell shatter his dark wall and strike his chest again. Astonished, he asks if Jared has combined two spells. Jared confirms that it is a technique he developed himself and taunts Deluc, stating that the Lich fell for it. Jared then uses a spell imbued with a holy attribute, revealing that even when it was just a game, Deluc consistently fell for this kind of magic. Isabella, surprised, asks if they have truly won, and if they have really defeated a Lich. She credits Jared for their success as he approaches Deluc cautiously. Suddenly, Deluc, in a fit of rage, attempts to attack Jared, screaming "Die!" Jared quickly blocks the attack using his mind eye. Staring at Deluc, Jared declares he would not die from such a feeble attempt. He casts a healing spell with a holy attribute, causing Deluc to wonder if he is really going to perish in this manner. Feeling fear for the first time since becoming a Lich, his instincts scream at him to dodge Jared's impending attack, but the seal binding him prevents any form of escape. Deluc is momentarily dazed, grappling with the concepts of death and fear, and mutters incredulously, questioning whether this is some kind of cruel joke. In a surge of anger, he releases his dark aura, declaring himself a Lich, the black mage who spreads plagues and commands death. He reaffirms his identity as Lich Deluc and, with fierce determination, challenges Jared, whom he now calls a holy mage, to fight once more. Deluc unleashes a torrent of black magic at Jared, who quickly conjures a shield to confront the onslaught. As he does, he muses to himself that Deluc seems to be recklessly throwing spells his way, to the point where it hardly qualifies as true magic. Just then, Deluc's spell shatters Jared's shield, and the Lich screams, "Die!" On the brink of being overpowered, Jared is saved by Isabella, who steps in and erects a protective wall around him. Furious, Deluc roars, "Enough with her interference." He then casts an underground spell that pierces Isabella's chest, dispelling her evil night form. As Isabella reverts to her normal state, she apologizes to Jared, saying this is as far as she can go. She then asks if he is sure that he can kill that monster. With unwavering confidence, he responds that he has already told her. Diluc can't lay a finger on him in this weakened state. While Diluc was initially thrown off by his appearance and potent attacks, his fundamental patterns haven't changed. Like every other monster in Paradiso, Jared knows everything about him. How he attacks, how he dodges, and all his tricks. Diluc, insulted by Jared's words, calls him a quick-footed pest. It's time for you to be crushed. He casts a spell that lands dangerously close to Jared, who teases back, if there's anything I'm confident in, it's taking you down. Diluc, still doubting Jared, proclaims that while Jared is busy dodging his blows, he somehow remains confident in his victory. Jared sprints toward Diluc, replying, of course, and places his wand against Diluc's chest. Surprised, Diluc asks if this is fourth-class magic. He calls Jared a devil, accusing him of deceiving him with low-level magic from the start. Jared replies, I told you I'm always confident and 100% sure of myself. He then grabs Diluc's chain and casts a holy chain bond, strengthening his magic. Jared declares that a scoundrel like Diluc who lacks substance is easy to attack. He casts a spell, Light Attribute Amplification Growth, and commands Diluc to feel the blessings of God flow throughout his body. Jared shatters Diluc into pieces with a powerful blinding blast, declaring that Diluc, the devil, won't be coming back anytime soon, and telling him to give up. With only half of his skull remaining, Diluc defiantly replies that giving up is his choice to make. He asks Jared if he knows what the future holds for him and suggests that he should think about what he will have to face from now on. Jared, without hesitation, states that Diluc is around a 9th-class mage in terms of magic alone and more on the extreme side of that, while Jared himself is only at the 4th class. Diluc, acknowledging Jared's understanding, notes that despite knowing this, Jared is still watching him die, seemingly desiring something from the depths of his soul. Curiously, Diluc inquires what it is that Jared wants. Jared responds that he wants Diluc's most powerful symbol of monarchy. Diluc, amused, asks if this is a joke, suggesting that Jared must be delusional if he's trying to achieve what neither the Lord of the Gods nor the cruel devil himself could accomplish. Diluc remarks that he finds this amusing and says he will watch Jared closely in hell, through his prideless eyes. Isabella then comments that the scariest thing about Jared is that while many people are stronger than him, he doesn't care about that at all. Jared, stretching his body with a sense of relief, remarks that Diluc is finally gone. Isabella adds that it's almost as if Jared knows he will surpass them someday. Jared picks up Diluc's bracelet and, observing it closely, reveals that he desperately needed it, but that this is far better than he could have ever imagined. He says, growth-type artifacts are by far the best. There's no artifact better than this. I'm so happy we came here. As Jared examines the bracelet, Isabella spots a book nearby and calls out to him, saying there's a strange book over there. Curious, Jared asks, a book? Isabella replies that it looks like something the dead Lich left behind. Jared picks up the book and notes that he has never seen a book drop from Diluc's corpse before. He reads the title aloud, Lich Diluc Revival Spell. Isabella, flipping through the pages, inquires if it is possible for the resurrected being to have a relationship with its master, making it impossible to deny the master's orders. She also asks if, in the off chance that Jared dies, the spirit will die with him. Jared laughs and confirms her suspicions. Isabella, still flipping through the pages, realizes that this contract might as well make her Jared's slave. She throws the book away in frustration and yells that this isn't the type of relationship she was looking for. Furiously, she asks what he is trying to make her do for him. Jared responds with a plan. First, you tie me up, nice and tight. Second, you use cursed magic on me, and I fend it off as best I can. Third, we rinse and repeat, raising our magic resistance and tolerance at the same time. He laughs, adding that normally they would have to spend a lot of money hiring a strong mage, but it's completely free if she does it on him. Isabella, looking at him with curiosity, muses that it's the first time she has found a reason to dislike this man. Jared, noticing her expression, asked her not to look at him that way. She questions if this is all he wants. Jared suggests she think about the other uses this might have. Isabella casually agrees, saying she was getting tired of her boring old routine anyway. Jared proposes they get going, as some of the revival vats are just around the corner. She asks him to wait, questioning if they are doing it now, adding that she's still not prepared. Jared exhales a deep breath and asks Isabella why he has to carry her. Furiously, she explains that she is still not comfortable in this human body and questions if she didn't tell him to start calling her Isabel. Jared, confused, recalls that Isabella said she lost her memories after becoming human. He asks how she even remembers her name. She responds that she doesn't know and doesn't care, urging him to hurry up because it's cold. Annoyed, she adds that Luke had all these perverted fantasies about the human body, yet couldn't even afford to have normal clothes. Jared reflects that he's glad she hasn't changed much, but notes that her tendencies seem to be the same as well. He lets out a sigh and observes that it seems she has become more emotional as well. As they pass through a cave full of skeletons, Isabella comments that there sure are a lot of bodies. Jared reveals that this place was infested with traps, but fortunately, most of the innermost traps are now disabled. They reach a place where a woman is floating in a water chamber. Isabella, curious, asks him how that woman died and wonders if it was because of the traps. Jared, saying nothing, responds that maybe it was, but he's not too sure himself. Isabella hopes that the woman doesn't become an evil spirit, noting that living as an evil spirit is tough. One's senses are gone, but it always feels cold and lonely. Smiling, she suggests that maybe this woman would be a lot happier if Isabella lived a cooler life through her body. Extremely happy, Isabella declares that she will be eating lots of delicious food while trying new dresses and makeup. Jared, curious, asks when the story changed. She smiles and asks Jared if it will be fun with him. He casually replies that it won't be boring, to say the least, but it's undoubtedly dangerous. She responds with a quiet agreement. Jared smiles and says he is glad to have a trusty sidekick. Isabella feels a sense of relief as she embraces him. Elsewhere, a man seething with frustration yells at his servant, demanding to know if more monster hunters have been lost. The servant confirms, adding that the Runa liqueur is only found in Caribbe, making it the main destination for migration. Furious, the man snaps, reminding him they've spent a fortune hiring people to steal the cure. The servant apologetically informs him that Caribbe has been extremely vigilant in safeguarding the cure's recipe. Although they managed to secure a small sample, replicating the formula has proven to be exceedingly difficult. The man's anger grows, and he scolds the servant for speaking so nonchalantly. He questions why he even hired him and angrily orders him to leave. Turning his thoughts to Jared, the man mutters with disdain, calling him a devil who acts high and mighty without truly understanding the fears of this world. He declares that two can play at this game. Just then, the Lord of Mayora, Hargos, appears with a young girl sitting on his thigh. Hargos inquires how many lives they could afford to lose if they were to declare war immediately. His servant, kneeling with respect, informs him that they currently have 1,239 skilled men ready for deployment. Hargos takes a moment to ponder and then states that this number is still too small. He suggests that they need more men, knowing that Jared is a fourth-class magician and no longer the foolish figure he once was. If he had known this transformation was going to happen, Hargos would have had Gragas poison Jared long ago. He then asked about Gragas, and the servant explains that the assassin was dispatched by Sir Perua to eliminate the threat of him talking. Suddenly, a man announces the arrival of Akran, the great guide of Mayora. Hargos expresses his relief, acknowledging Akran's arrival, whom he refers to as his magician. Akran greets Hargos and assures him that he has been well. He then informs Hargos that he has brought the magicians requested, although their services have come at a substantial cost. Hargos dismisses the financial concern, claiming that money is of no issue to him. He then curiously asks one of the magicians about his class, to which the magician responds that he is of the 3rd class. Confidently, Akran suggests that if they were to launch an attack immediately, Caribbe would be wiped off the face of the earth. Hargos laughs, finding this proposition perfect. During the journey through the woods, Isabella, Jared's minister, reflects on Jared's growing influence worldwide through diplomacy. He notes that they are in the northern region and questions if this is a disputed territory, caught between Mayora and Runa, who are quarreling over its claim. Jared informs him that their presence there is not for official business, but to negotiate with a tribe that resides in the area. Isabella, intrigued, asks if they are going to meet elves who inhabit these woods. Jared simply replies that they will find out soon enough. As they proceed, several goblins observe them from higher ground. Isabella, alarmed, identifies them as red goblins and expresses concern, recalling that Sir Oberon believed they were the only ones in this region. Now, they find themselves completely surrounded. One of Jared's ministers quickly commands the soldiers to protect their lord, while Rakis instructs them to set up a defensive perimeter without engaging. Isabella, in disbelief, murmurs about setting up a defensive perimeter against what appeared to be monsters and wonders if they might actually be humans. The leader of the Red Goblins emerges and introduces himself as Ibaniba, the leader of the goblins. Sir Oberon is surprised to hear a goblin speaking the Nasu dialect. Jared greets Ibaniba in return and introduces himself. Ibaniba, curious, confirms Jared's identity and admits that his expectations were far too low. He inquires about the purpose of their meeting. Jared explains that they seek to establish diplomatic relations for the acquisition of iron and gold. Ibaniba laughs, stating that this is the first time in all his years that he has witnessed a human offering his hand first. He asks if Jared has what it takes to satisfy their needs. Jared signals to one of his soldiers, who brings forth a cart full of nightmare stones. Isabella, puzzled, whispers to himself that this doesn't make any sense. He is aware that nightmare stones are considered beautiful but worthless stones, commonly found in the nightmare forest by monster hunters. He fears that presenting such stones might insult the goblins due to their low value. Ibaniba, however, comments that it seems Jared has quite a few nightmare stones. Expressing his frustration, he says that none of them had bothered to even glance their way until now, yet they brought these stones to their first meeting. Isabella worries that they are in trouble. To everyone's surprise, Ibaniba smiles and declares that he likes it. Jared has done well. The two shake hands, and Ibaniba thanks Jared profusely for bringing such precious stones to them. He hands Jared a contract and states that through this agreement, they have become brothers in the north. Jared expresses his hope that their relationship will grow into an even stronger bond. Ibaniba shares this sentiment and instructs his goblins to bring out the iron and gold. The goblins carry numerous sacks filled with iron and gold and place them before Jared. Ibaniba, admiring the nightmare stones, laughs and remarks that no other stone compares to their beauty. One of the goblins excitedly comments on the prospect of polishing these stones. One of Jared's ministers, astonished by the goblins' vast supply of ores, contemplates that it might be more advantageous to claim the land for themselves. Ibaniba, however, is thrilled and suggests they celebrate their new alliance. He calls out to those on the hill, saying that there is no longer a need for protection, and invites them to join. Dark elves emerge from hiding, and Jared's minister is taken aback by the presence of such a typically hostile race. He realizes that Jared must have known about this all along. As night falls, the celebration continues. Isabella, amazed, comments on how the red goblins value nightmare stones, similarly to how humans value gold. He asks Jared where he obtained this information. The party is lively with various groups participating in arm wrestling and other activities. Jared, sitting next to Rakis, inquires about the current state of their army and smithies. Rakis reports that due to a lack of materials, they are mainly focusing on repairing and improving existing equipment for new recruits. Jared instructs that once they acquire refined iron from the Red Goblins, they should prioritize mass-producing swords, spears, and arrows, ensuring that no ingot goes unused. Rakis acknowledges this. Jared adds that they will use a portion of the gold obtained from the goblins to further invest in their army. He then informs Rakis that he will be appointed as the head of recruitment, effective immediately. Ibaniba, sitting beside Jared, questions if he is planning to declare war against Mayora. He suggests that there's no other reason for such a sudden large-scale business deal than preparation for war. Eating grapes, he praises Jared's intelligence and remarks that Mayora is a corrupt haven filled with criminals. He adds that sooner or later, they would have expanded their influence into Jared's territory. Jared sincerely apologizes if Ibaniba is offended by their primary reason for establishing this deal. Ibaniba, however, casually waves it off, explaining that he was merely speaking for the sake of conversation. He laughs, stating that the amount of iron and gold they have provided is nothing to them, and he personally dislikes Hargos. Ibaniba declares his support for Jared. Raising his glass, he toasts to their new brother Jared and to the glory of Caribbe. The entire crowd joins in, raising their glasses. Jared, with a serious expression, joins in the toast and drinks. On March 14, 1414, in the Nasu territory, some time has passed since Isabel's resurrection. Jared introduces Isabel to Hayes, explaining that she was his classmate during their time at the academy in the Desmond Empire. Isabel greets Hayes warmly with a gentle laugh and a friendly demeanor. Despite the new surroundings, Isabel quickly adapted to life in the manor. During a training session, she casts an illusion spell on Jared, creating a mirage of what his enemies fear the most. She also helps him enhance his magic defense, contributing to his daily practice. Jared, clearly unnerved, asks why the spiders are so large, but she dismisses his fears, remarking that spiders are not frightening. Thanks to her rigorous training, Jared's magic defense reaches a total of 34 points. One day, while holding a handful of candies, Isabel questions Jared about their significance, playfully accusing him of trying to make her gain weight. He explains that the candy is a gift for White Day, an occasion on which men are supposed to return the favor to women who gave them chocolates a month ago, on February 14th. Isabel, intrigued, teases him, suggesting that the day sounds romantic and questioning if he is warming up to her. Jared clarifies that he gave candy to every woman in the manor, not just her. Isabel continues to flirt, playfully placing a candy between her teeth and attempting to kiss him. She teasingly remarks that their lives are intertwined by the mind-eye and bound by a kiss. Jared, taken aback, laughs and comments that it almost sounds like a marriage contract. Gently, he places the candy in her mouth with his finger and asks her to stop playing around. He then suggests they focus on improving their magic resistance, noting that they have already significantly increased his magic defense. Despite his suggestion, Isabel stubbornly continues her advances, and Jared tries to remain focused. As he begins to walk away, Isabel points her finger at him and casts a desire spell, much to his shock. Despite his protests, she insists, casting the spell instantly. They share an intimate moment, and the game then notifies that Jared has successfully met the minimum enlightenment requirements to reach the 5th class. Later, Jared reveals the details of a nurturing project he has initiated. He plans to find and recruit the most talented individuals for future development, leveraging the benefits of the priest's disciplinary system, which rewards bonus points to teachers based on their students' progress. Isabel shows extraordinary promise, while Lena approaches her tasks with gratitude and Maya treats her training as a game. With the tips and tricks Jared has acquired over the years, he feels confident in his ability to guide his students without encountering major issues. However, he is shocked to discover that Hayes has shown zero progress. Hayes, nervously asking if Jared will truly be her teacher, questions how a mere maid like her can become a healer. She expresses doubts about her ability but vows to do her best. Despite her efforts, Hayes struggles with basic spells, and Jared reflects on the highly specialized nature of healers, noting there are fewer than 5 people of that class on the entire Nasu continent. Frustrated by Hayes' lack of advancement, Jared questions why she continues to define herself entirely by her role as a maid. Hayes apologizes, clearly ashamed, and the situation weighs heavily on him. Later, while discussing the issue with Sir Oberon, Jared confides that they are at a standstill with Hayes' progress. Oberon acknowledges that for Hayes to awaken as a healer, she must fully commit both in body and mind, and points out that her identity as a maid, which has defined her for 23 years, may be a significant obstacle. Jared, concerned, wonders how he can guide her effectively. Oberon, noticing Jared's distress, advises him to trust Hayes to succeed on her own given her dedication thus far. Jared agrees, thanks Oberon, and immediately sprints off down the hallway, determined to act on the advice. As he runs, he reflects on the situation, realizing that Hayes is not like the others. He doesn't need to micromanage her but should trust her to grow at her own pace. Suddenly, he senses danger but is struck by an assassin from behind before he can react. Moments later, Hayes and a guard arrive at the scene, finding Jared lying on the floor bloodied. Panicked, Hayes asks how this could have happened. The guard explains that an assassin ambushed him, and that a doctor has been summoned, though it's uncertain if he will arrive in time. Desperate, Hayes, reminding herself she is a healer, kneels beside Jared, opens his shirt, and urges him to hold on. Recalling her promise to be always at his side, she focuses all her energy on healing him, her magic illuminating the entire hallway. 30 minutes later, Jared, the guard, and Rekis sit together, appearing disappointed. Hayes, still teary-eyed, yells in frustration, demanding to know why they played such a cruel prank on her. Jared, trying to calm her, explains that the injury was exaggerated using animal blood to test her abilities. Hayes, upset by the deception, expresses her deep emotional reaction to seeing Jared hurt. Sir Oberyn comments dryly that this was not quite what he had in mind when advising Jared to trust Hayes. Meanwhile, Jared's nurturing project proceeds with minimal issues. Fua, smoking calmly, discusses plans for the future, expressing confidence in an easy victory if war breaks out with Caribbe. He notes that eliminating Jared would prevent unnecessary bloodshed and instructs an assassin to infiltrate the manor, spy on Jared, and kill him if the opportunity arises. As he finally gets the opportunity strike, Rakis, the false assassin, steps in and intervenes. The real assassin, hidden behind a wall, prepares to strike. He muses over missed opportunities, and his thoughts shift to wondering who else might be after Jared. Amid a biting cold breeze and storm, Rakis notices a flicker of light in the distance. As the light grows closer, it becomes clear that it's a man carrying a lamp. Upon nearing Rakis, the man with a curious tone, he asks who's out there and if it's baby Rakis. The man guides Rakis back to his home, providing him warmth and comfort. The man hands Rakis a steaming cup of tea to help chase away the cold. As the man steps away to tend to the fire, he says with a warm smile that Rakis has grown a lot since the last time he saw him. Rakis smiles back and replies with a hint of amusement, 40 years of life will do that to a person. The man sits near the fire, and he begins to stoke the flames. Then, with curiosity, he asks what brings Rakis so deep into the nightmare forest. Rakis leans forward, revealing that new developments have emerged and that the man was the first person he thought of upon hearing the news. He presents the man with a small vial, explaining that it's a cure for Ronella's disease. He then asks the man if he wouldn't need such a cure, especially when living in such a treacherous place. The man raises his eyebrows in curiosity, and before placing more wood on the fire, he asks if this is the rumored cure. He admits that he is doubtful about the potion, especially since an idiot leader created it. Still holding on to the belief in Lord Jared's transformation, Rakis defends him, stating that Jared has changed. He explains that Lord Jared has learned from his past and even allowed him to bring the potion to the man. The man laughs heartily, shaking his head, remarking that Jared is the kind of man who would throw away countless lives just to recruit a handful of others. However, Rakis remains firm, telling the man that they need veterans like him now more than ever. He urges the man to reconsider, suggesting that he would change his mind if he could witness how much Caribbe has changed. In the recent history of the Nasu continent, a land ravaged by war, never before had such a destructive conflict taken place. Countless lives were crushed, and the heads of nobles rolled in the ashes of war. Morality and ethics became mere concepts, meaningless in the face of survival. Fear was the only constant, for death itself rode on horseback across the Nasu continent, making its rounds from one end to the other. Meanwhile, far from the cold of the nightmare forest, in a cozy seaside tavern, Jared slams his mug down on the table with a sense of satisfaction. With a broad grin on his face, he declares how refreshing Caribbe's lager is and praises the seafood, noting its quality due to its proximity to the ocean. Isabella, sitting across from him, responds with a wry smile, casually observing if he is saying that it's freezing cold up there and that he is relying on seafood because he can't grow anything else. He laughs heartily and confirms her observation, admitting that he really hopes the fertilizers will improve the crops this time. Hayes, who had been quietly sitting with them, laughs nervously and reassures Jared, saying she is sure the fertilizers will work great, especially since he made them. He bursts into laughter again, wiping tears from his eyes, and jokingly asks if that's the only reason she believes in their success. Hayes overhears a group of men sitting at a nearby table as their conversation continues. One of the men remarks on how much safer and cleaner the roads have been recently. His friend nods in agreement, wondering aloud if the improvements were due to some guy named Aki, who had invested in the roads after being robbed himself. The men at the table discuss how Aki's actions were carried out under Lord Jared's orders. He expresses his belief that Caribbe's future looks bright under Jared's leadership. Another man, excited, suggests that they should consider buying land in Caribbe, or perhaps even relocating their Hunter Guild headquarters there, given the recent improvements. Hearing this, Isabella smiles knowingly, leaning toward Jared and commenting that it was a good idea to sneak in quietly. Jared, however, isn't paying attention. His focus has drifted to a woman sitting a few tables away, and Isabella, noticing his distraction, asks him curiously what he is looking at. Jared, still in a daze, mutters quietly that isn't that person Ella. His gaze is locked on a lively woman, her voice carrying across the tavern as she exuberantly exclaims how amazing the beer is. Excitedly, she calls out to the waiter for another round and encourages her friends to join her. As Jared's eyes widen, he realizes that the woman is none other than Ella, a warrior NPC famous for aiding players during the first great crisis in Paradiso's history, if they could afford her services. Ella's elven companion, sitting next to her, sighs and advises her to take it easy with the drinking, reminding her that alcohol clouds judgment. With a playful smirk, Ella brushes her friend's cheek and teasingly tells her that she'll need to learn how to handle a drink or two if she ever wants to find a guy she likes. Jared watches the scene unfold, noting to himself that while Ella is a powerful warrior, she would likely join the Demon King's army if the price was right. His mind-eye ability activates as he studies Ella's elven companion. The ability reveals that the woman is none other than Chloe, the Queen of Silence, an NPC leader of the Grey Elves. Jared's thoughts race as he tries to recall everything he knows about her. She had emerged in secret 5 years before the Great Stallion War, and her presence here now is as shocking as Ella's. Jared is stunned, realizing he's in the presence of two of the most important figures in Paradiso's history, all in the same place. He mutters that if he plays his cards right, this could be a huge opportunity. His excitement bubbles over, and without thinking, he rushes from his seat, leaving Isabella and Hayes behind. He approaches Ella's table, nervously excusing himself and apologizing for interrupting. But before he can say much, Ella cuts him off with a laugh that it's fine. She says casually that she is not interested in younger guys. She gives him a gentle push, telling him to leave. Jared, completely thrown off by the touch, goes pale and collapses on the ground in a daze. Hayes, alarmed, sprints to his side and kneels next to him, helping him back up. Angrily, she scolds Ella, informing her that the man she just dismissed is none other than Lord Jared, the Viscount of Caribbe, and a ruler across the continent. The entire tavern falls silent, all eyes now on Jared, their lord, who had gone unnoticed until now. Ella, however, remains unfazed, turning her gaze toward Hayes. She comments that Hayes looks like a mere maid and asks her if she's not afraid, adding that she is also a viscount. Ella challenges Hayes' assumption, reminding her that Jared isn't the only noble in the world. With Hayes' support, Jared slowly rises to his feet. Still recovering from the shock, he addresses Ella directly, acknowledging the unexpected nature of their meeting. He then calmly proposes a business deal, offering her a handsome sum for her services. Later in Jared's office, Ella sits across from him, looking intrigued as he outlines his offer. In exchange for teaching a child, 5,000 gold for 1 year, complete with a mansion. Jared confirms the details, adding that they'll draft and notarize the agreement to make it official. Sitting beside Ella, Chloe defers to her mentor, saying she will follow Ella's decision. After all, in her view, the human world isn't much different no matter where they go. However, Ella is curious, asking Jared why he trusts her so easily when they've just met. Jared admits that he doesn't trust them yet but believes that money is the only way to guarantee their help. He figures that by throwing enough gold their way, they won't refuse. Smiling with amusement, Ella leans back and remarks that Jared's offer is the sexiest thing she's heard so far. She accepts the deal, asking about the child Jared is willing to spend so much gold on. With this agreement, Jared has finally solved the issue of finding a teacher for Lena. Normally he would be exhausted by such a long day of negotiations, but thanks to Gorz's necklace, he feels no fatigue. Yet, as time passes, he worries that his knowledge of Paradiso and the world he has become a part of is slowly slipping away. Just earlier today, he had forgotten what Chloe even looked like. He knows it will become more difficult to document his experiences in his journal. Still, he remains determined to leave behind a record named Paradiso written in Korean, an unknown language in this world, so that his legacy endures. As Lena and Chloe train together, they each lift a heavy wooden block, their muscles straining under the weight. Jared and Ella stand at a distance, observing the scene. Jared, watching the intensity of the training, muses that it seems like hellish work. He wonders aloud whether Lena, if she keeps this up, will end up becoming a muscular powerhouse. His eyes shift to Chloe, who works just as hard but remains effortlessly composed, not breaking a single sweat. Curiously, Jared asks Ella why Chloe appears unaffected despite the strenuous training. Ella, unfazed, replies that the world is vast and Lena isn't the only talented child out there. She adds candidly that whoever has been training Lena up until now has done a poor job at best. With a smirk, Ella mentions that she could probably kill Lena's previous instructor in 5 seconds using just one hand. Jared laughs hesitantly at the remark, thinking of Rakis and playfully considering that he must only be worth 5 seconds. Ella shifts the conversation to Lena's potential, noting that even without an impressive teacher, Lena's natural growth is significant thanks to the magic training equipment she's been using. She elaborates that the 4-element magic released by the equipment targets her shield training effectively. With a curious gleam in her eye, Ella asks Jared how he found the perfect training method for Lena. Jared laughs, explaining that it's actually a method from the Eastern continent that takes advantage of the game's system. He reveals that repeating the same training methods too often leads to decreased proficiency in Paradiso. However, with 4 different elements in rotation, the system considers each one a unique training method, effectively bypassing the anti-macro mechanics. He calls it a bug, one that he's surprised Ella knew about, despite not using the mind eye. Regardless, Jared isn't worried. The method has proven highly effective. Meanwhile, at the Caribbe farms, the local farmers are busy spraying fertilizer on their crops. When they spot Sir Oberon approaching, they eagerly greet him, thanking him for his presence and expressing their gratitude for their flourishing crops. Oberon, there for a routine inspection, asks the farmers how their harvest is progressing. A farmer enthusiastically responds that pest control has been much easier, thanks to the pests migrating to Runella territory. He mentions that their friends in Runella have been eager to learn the secrets behind Caribbe's successful crops, and every day they thank their lord and Sir Oberon for their hard work. Humbled, Sir Oberon listens to the farmers' praises, unsure of what to make of the overwhelming admiration for their lord. He thanks each of the farmers personally, and in response, the farmers are visibly moved. The game system notifies Jared that the collective voices of the farmers sing his praises, signaling the completion of the quest with a sincere heart. Jared gains 200 loyalty points, and the game informs him that a golden age has dawned upon his territory. On a snowy day, Caribbe's market buzzes with the sound of the citizens chanting, "All hail to their lord, all hail Caribbe." Hayes, watching the scene with Avila, smiles and asks her to help spread the sentiment further. Lena and Chloe continue their rigorous training, pushing themselves harder with each passing day, while Jared, back in his office, checks the game's stats. He feels a wave of satisfaction as he sees that his efforts have led to yet another golden age for his territory. Elsewhere, Akran, accompanied by 2 guards, arrives at Caribbe. Despite both territories residing in the northern region, he comments on the stunning scenery in Caribbe. The mansion is eerily quiet. In the training area, Lena, concerned, remarks to Chloe that the mansion seems unusually still today. She asks if Chloe knows where everyone might have gone. Before she can respond, Ella interrupts from behind, her tone sharp and warning. She reminds Lena that if she has time to chat, she should be focusing on her training. Lena, startled, immediately begins running as Ella orders her to complete 20 laps around the field. Lena, already in motion, confirms the order. Ella sighs, commenting that they should have informed her in advance if they were heading to war. She mutters in frustration, wondering aloud what Jared could possibly be thinking. Stretching her body, she asks Chloe if she should loosen up as well, just in case. Suddenly, a fireball strikes one of the watchtowers, and a guard tumbles from it. Another Caribbean guard, panicked, shouts that they are under ambush, and orders a retreat. Meanwhile, America Guard informs Lord Hargos that the watchtower has been destroyed and the Caribbean forces are retreating. Hargos laughs in amusement, instructing his men to let the idiotic fools go. He marvels at the ease of his plan, noting that Caribbe's forces have retreated into the forest, where magical beasts reside. If he had known it would be this simple, he muses, he would have invaded Caribbe much sooner. A soldier presents Hargos with a storage drum full of alcohol confiscated from Caribbean soldiers. Hargos laughs even harder, mocking their lack of discipline and calling it hard even to judge them. Raising his sword, Hargos commands his army to charge straight into Caribbe, confident in their victory. Meanwhile, In Caribbe, the townspeople hurriedly begin evacuating to safer locations. From a height, a man looks sorrowfully at his town, lamenting that everything was peaceful just yesterday. The man beside him asks what kind of disaster they are now facing. Jared is quickly informed that the fourth defensive line has been breached. A soldier approaches him, reporting that the enemy will soon be upon them. Jared advises that they must move swiftly. Turning to Rakis, he implores him to do his best, as the land will be lost if the enemy manages to break through. Rakis confirms his orders. As Jared prepares for action, Hayes rushes toward him, breathless and distressed. She demands to know why he isn't taking her along in such a necessary war, insisting that she should fight beside him. Jared, his expression firm, tells her he cannot involve her in the war. Hayes protests, reminding him of her healing abilities, but Jared explains that the battlefield is too dangerous. One mistake could cost her life. He gently takes her hand, acknowledging the rarity and usefulness of her skill, but he cannot risk losing her just because of it. Hayes, her eyes shimmering with emotion, tells Jared that she doesn't want to lose him either. Jared, softening, asked her if there is anyone who would want to lose a comrade. It's natural not to want to lose those important to you, he says, especially someone like her, whom he has known his entire life. To protect those he cares about, Jared has always been prepared for what may come. He asks Hayes to trust him, and after a moment she nods and responds, yes. Isabella, watching the exchange, grows visibly jealous. She furiously grabs Hayes by the hood and yanks her back, scolding her. If she is a healer, Isabella snaps, then her place is here, tending to the wounded, not out on the battlefield. Isabella then turns to Jared and tells him that she will be the one to stay by his side, fully prepared for anything. Jared nods and dons his warrior helmet, declaring that all preparations are complete. Rakis, meanwhile, surveys the stronghold, acknowledging that it is strategically advantageous due to its location. However, the reality of their situation is grim. They have only 300 soldiers with the military flag flying over a visible position, and 100 untrained peasants who have volunteered. Rakis, addressing the gathered men, thanks them for stepping up in such a desperate situation. He expresses shame at the military's inability to provide them with adequate protection and apologizes sincerely. Their lord Jared even went so far as to bow to their enemies, seeking peace, but despite his efforts, Mayora still lusts after their land. The number of trained soldiers, Rakis continues, barely reaches 1,200. He raises his voice even higher, telling those who are not soldiers that they are free to leave if they wish. Their presence alone has already provided immense help. A flashback to a past conversation emerges. In it, a man Rakis met in the forest once suggested they both leave Caribbe, claiming the territory was doomed after the death of its previous lord, and that Jared, the current lord, was too naive. Rakis firmly refused to abandon Caribbe, despite the man's insistence that it wouldn't survive the coming winter. The man, furious, accused Rakis of foolishness, warning him not to become a vengeful spirit if he met his end in Caribbe. Returning to the present, the peasants rally around Rakis, telling him not to speak such pessimistic words. They vow to protect their land with their own hands. Thanks to Lord Jared's leadership, life in the barren lands of Caribbe has become bearable, and they refuse to let Mayorica's drug-addicted soldiers take it away. They would rather die fighting than be killed while fleeing. Rakis mutters to himself about the harsh winter that was predicted. His spirits rise as he realizes that, rather than harsh cold, it's the intense heat of battle that they face. Energized, Rakis refers to the peasants as soldiers and orders the distribution of swords and shields. Suddenly, a soldier informs Rakis that the enemy is approaching. Rakis confirms it and sees the enemy forces advancing from a distance. However, a new, unforeseen problem emerges. To his shock, the advancing army is not from Mayora, but from Ronella, led by Lord Batman. Batman, laughing as he surveys Caribbe on the horizon, is eager for the battle to come. 1 month ago, during a meeting with the Hargos, Lord of Mayora, and Batman, Lord of Ronella, Batman acknowledged that they had spent some time quarreling with each other. However, not all of them share the same goal of protecting their territories. He openly admits he feels indifferent about his emotions, and while he does hold some resentment, it isn't strong. Horgus, with a gold coin in hand, questions him if he has received a tribute from Caribbe as well. Batman reveals that he received quite a hefty amount as well, requesting to maintain an amicable relationship between them. Caribbe sent in various goods from their region. Considering the amount of gold they gifted, it seems as though they have good financial stability. Furiously, Horgus slams his fist on the table and calls Jared a scoundrel. He then attentively asks Batman to consider that carefully. Curiously, he questions why Jared would start to wag his tail and become amicable after all that time. 20% of the number of their hunters has fallen, and it is still continuing on its trend downward. He mentions that Jared is trying to shake the foundation of their territories. Batman mentions Jared is sacred since even though his territory is advancing, they are not ready altogether by that much. He muses that Jared is trying to buy peace through money. Horgus tells him that he has analyzed Caribbe and that they only have 300 soldiers. Curiously, Batman asks him if 300 isn't too small for soldiers. Horgus looks at the gold coin and says that's exactly the reason why Jared attempted to buy peace through money. He asks if it does not sound plausible. Clenching the coin in anger, he says Jared must believe that offering a large sum of money would be enough to satisfy them and prevent the attack. He reveals that he sent Akran, an inspection mage, since they decided to declare their two lands as allies. Batman wonderfully inquires about allies. Horgus, with a mad smile, says from today they will prepare to wage war against Caribbe. He adds that 1 month of preparation time should suffice, and then they will launch a surprise attack. Excitedly, they both get up. Horgus proposes that they should form a united front and avoid a half-hearted invasion, urging them to crush Jared and his territory completely. Batman, equally enthusiastic, agrees and eagerly suggests they declare an official alliance. They shake hands, sealing the pact. Thus Batman and Horgus unite, forging an alliance backed by over 3,000 soldiers. At first glance, it looked like a formation of mutual understanding, reaching for the same goals. However, they both have their own different objectives. Horgus muses that Mayora will be the next. Meanwhile, Batman muses to seize all of Mayorika's territory as well. On the battleground, Batman teases Jared aloud that he must be surprised and hateful seeing their unexpected arrival, stating that Jared's insolent and reckless actions have only shortened his life. He declares even if Jared attempts to stop him, it will be all for naught. He raises his hands in excitement and reveals that Horgus's army has surrounded the lands around Caribbe territory. He calls Jared foolish to deploy his army at the main front without even recognizing a byway nearby his own territory. He laughs inhumanly and tells Jared that ignorance is a sin and his land is done. He asks Jared that if he crawls on the ground and pleads for his pathetic life, they shall give him mercy. Jared puts off his warrior helmet. Batman's shocked to watch that the man he was addressing isn't Jared, is someone else in his warrior suit. Surprised, he asks who that man is. The spy in Jared's army wonders if that's not Jared, then where the real one is. He sprints in fear that it was all a trap, and before it's too late he needs to inform his lord. Suddenly, a soldier swings his sword sharply and pierces the spy. A green-haired man from behind stabs a sword in the spy's chest, saying there was really a spy. The soldier mentions the man and says if he starts to act all surprised about that, who is someone in charge of the public order and health, then what should they do? Curiously, he asks the soldier if that is how things happen. The soldier questions the spy lying bloody on the ground if he is the one who let the Mayora army invade their territory. Breathing his last, the spy smiles madly and wonders if they even knew his identity. Then the information that he received was all false. The soldier raises his warrior's shield in rage, stating aloud to the spy to atone and apologize to everyone by giving his life. A sound of skullcrack emerges. At night before the war in the forest side, Jared tells Rakis if the two lands send a united force to attack, then they would to use that main road. Rakis shares his opinion that the enemy has two plausible options for them. He reveals that the enemy knows the area around the main road is easy to ambush, while the lower grounds have a high percentage of losing soldiers in approaching. Jared confirms that anyone who can see they have a geographic advantage should have the same thoughts. Meanwhile, Batman asks Horgus what is the last option. Horgus tells him that after careful inspection of the land, he has discovered a hidden byway. Worried, Jared says if the spy is talented, they should have discovered the byway. Since the spy was posing as a lumberjack, he should have thoroughly inspected the detourway. Jared shows Rakis a landmine that Jared had created and reveals that he will place that trap in the byway. Observing the landmine, Rakis curiously says he had never seen something like that before. He asks Jared if he can take a look at what kind of qualities it has. Jared asks him to stand behind him. He holds a rope connected to the landmine, releasing his blue aura, which travels towards the landmine. Just as it reaches the landmine, a huge blast happens with the eruption of steel blisters in different directions, destroying the nearby area terribly. Jared protects themselves with his magic shield. Shocked, Rakus can't believe it and wonderfully says that it is an extraordinary weapon. Jared reveals by using that weapon he will annihilate the enemy in one blow, and that way, their lands wouldn't become a battlefield. Since the forest will be the graves of all those who dare to attack, he muses confidently that byway will be their enemy's one-way ticket to hell. Horgos with his army is rushing confidently towards Caribbe from the byway of the forest. He laughs inhumanly and commands his army to cut the limbs off those who resist and for those who surrender, tie them up with chains. He adds that with the start of war, an era of eternal wealth and honor shall usher upon them. He commands them to raise their weapons and suggests they commence the massacre. Hiding in the bushes, Jared declares aloud that the massacre is about to begin. Horgos, surprised, mutters in disbelief, recognizing Jared's voice. Jared corrects him, saying the real threat isn't their weapons, but their shields. As he releases his aura, it surges toward the string of landmines. With a mocking tone, he taunts Horgos to savor the traps he's so carefully prepared. Panicked, Akran recognizes that mana flowing underneath them is causing the ground to tremble. Instantly, he makes his defensive shield and commands his companion magicians, Isaac and Odium, to start their defensive magic. Suddenly, a huge blast happens amid the forest. Most of the soldiers are burning in fire, and the blisters of landmines pierce the others. The blisters grazed Horgos, but Akran quickly formed a shield around them. Their screams echoed through the forest, filling the air. Batman, standing on the battlefield, witnesses the blasts and screams of shoulders in the nearby forest. He gets scared to acknowledge it and muses that a great explosion has occurred from the direction of the byway that Horgos was using. He sweats in fear that the ones who are disadvantaged in war are them. He looks disappointed but raises his sword to announce that if he doesn't have the support of Mayora, he still has command over 1,800 soldiers. He commands his warriors to wipe the Caribbean army out. His force points out their weapons and rushes towards the enemy. One of the Caribbean soldiers commands his companions to forward their tanks and hold their positions. Meanwhile, Horgos is hit by a blister on the arm in the forest. Worried, Akran inquires if his lord is okay. Horgos confirms it and furiously asks for a report on the situation. Scaredly, Akran reveals except for about 500 soldiers, everyone has been annihilated who was following them from the rear. With pain, Horgos gets on his knees and inquires about the two mages. Disappointed, Akran reveals that Isaac and Odium have also perished. Horgos in pain wonders about the disastrous situation. The soldiers he needed to combat Jared have all perished. He never would have guessed that Jared possessed such a horrifying weapon. The only one he can rely on now is Akran. He orders Akran not to stray far from his side. He suggests Akran retreat, but suddenly Jared clutches Akran by the throat. Scared, Horgos yells out Akran's name, but Jared strongly grabs his throat and flies high in the sky. Jared asks him the reason for freaking out so much. Akran calls him a scoundrel and asks if, until now, his appearance has all been nothing but a staged act. Jared taunts Akran, asking if he finally understands how pitiful the situation is. Desperately trying to escape, Akran asks how far Jared intends to take things. Without warning, Jared leaves him suspended in the sky, stating that should be far enough. As Akran's fall accelerates, he screams in pain. Jared quickly rushes toward him again, casting a spell. He gives Akran two options: either activate his powers to stop his fall or summon a shield to defend against the incoming ice storm. As the icy winds swirl around them, Jared demands a decision. Akran confronts the attack, calling him a fool. In a typical magic duel, opponents usually create distance, gauging each other's strength before exchanging a series of calculated attacks. After careful observation and reading into their rivals' moves, they unleash chains of fierce assaults. That's how it usually goes. But Jared shattered this convention entirely. Breaking through Akran's shield, Jared grabs him tightly, forcing him to face downward. Confused, Akran wonders if Jared is attempting a double suicide. As he sees a magic circle forming in Jared's hand, He begins to laugh maniacally, finally understanding Jared's deadly intent. In the world of magic, a fourth-class mage is far from weak. Even Horgos, who ruled Mayora through brute force, had to pay a fortune for third-class mages to handle tricky situations. Yet Jared found himself frustrated when comparing his current self to his past, where he had defeated the reincarnated Lich, multiple times. Now, he could barely cast fourth-class magic once. His opponent, Akran, was a perfectly balanced fourth-class mage with magic skills matching Jared's, though lacking in close combat. Laughing inhumanly, Akran's muscles swell with power as he breaks free from Jared's grasp. Furious, he mocks Jared, questioning if he truly thought he would lose. Akran's punch cracks Jared's shield, revealing the flaw of close-range combat. Shields are easily broken. His blow shatters Jared's helmet, and he laughs, claiming he has seen through Jared's strategy. Akran reveals its teleportation magic, Dimension Door, since he can't use flight magic to counter Jared's strong attacks. He tells Jared that he was wrong to use that to his advantage and leave him to crash while he used the Dimension Door to save his life. Akran laughs inhumanly and says it's impressive. He believed that only the pattern was that of a fourth-class spell, but to think that Jared knew how to apply it on a level like that is impressive. However, Akran adds that he has seen through Jared's tricks. He laughs madly, saying that the one to fall through and use the Dimension Door first is now him because of the impact of that previous attack. Jared yells out Akran's name. Akran laughs inhumanly and makes a fireball, saying it's Jared's turn now to choose whether to stop his attack or to stop his fall. He spells fire on Jared and laughs madly again, saying if he gets hit by his flames, it will be over for him. Nonetheless, of the choice he makes, it looks like everything leads to Jared's death. Jared protects himself from the flame. Meanwhile, Akran falls in the teleportation circle. Akran laughs maniacally, claiming victory, boasting that even if Jared survives the attack, he won't be able to use the portal now that he has triggered it first. He passes to the other side of the portal, saying that if Jared chooses to cross into the portal, the moment he emerges, he will fall victim to Akran's attacks. Suddenly, Akran impales himself on a cluster of sharp blades emerging from a tree. Jared, meanwhile, lands gracefully on the ground through the portal, smirking. "Did you really think you saw through my tricks?" Jared asks, mocking him. He notes Akran's baffled expression and shakes his head. "Without your magic, you're just a clueless idiot." Jared thanks Akran for the attack, explaining it helped cushion his fall. With a sly grin, he adds, "You shouldn't have attacked me while I was still above you." On the other hand, his attack accelerated Akran's fall since he shot his ice storm at him while Akran was below. Jared reveals that he purposely let himself get hit by Akran's attack, making him fall into the Dimension Door, where he set his trap. He insults him by repeating Akran's words that he saw through his plans. He is the victor of that battle, and he sees his weakness. Jared smirks and delivers a saying, "If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. When someone realizes it's too idealistic, they know it's not genuine." He adds that Akran has been dancing in the palm of his hand from the very beginning. Akran, writhing in pain and fear, barely manages to utter Jared's name. Jared coldly informs him that he will deliver justice on behalf of all his victims for the countless evil deeds he has committed. With a final spell, Jared ignites flames that consume Akran, reducing him to ashes. His glasses fall to the ground in front of Jared. A notification rings out. His stats have leveled up, and the neck-and-neck combat quest has been completed, rewarding him with 15 wisdom points. Jared scoffs at the quest name, confidently remarking that Akran couldn't even scratch the robe he's wearing. Crushing the glasses beneath his foot, he grinds them into the ground. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the forces of Caribbe and Runella clash with relentless dedication, fighting fiercely for their territories. The injured Caribbean soldiers retreat to the camp, where Hayes dutifully tends to their wounds as a healer. Batman commands his army to push them back, and the Caribbean defense is on the verge of collapsing. A Runella soldier is stabbed by a sword in the head. Caribbean soldier commands his companions to maintain formation. Isolde immediately informs Rakes that they need more men in the center immediately. Suddenly, the Caribbean force center breaks down. Rakes can't believe what he hears. A Runella soldier commands his companions to ignore the ordinary soldiers and kill the people in the interior area first. He laughs madly and says with that accomplishment, they will get their pockets stuffed with gold and become filthy rich. Hayes and others in camps get scared to watch the Runella soldiers rushing towards them. A Runella soldier points out his sharp weapon straight and yells, "Die!" Suddenly, he gets hit by something hard, which smashes him away on the ground. The man whom Raucus met in the forest shows up, saying the Runella soldier mentions that their military power was inferior to think they would be pushed back so quickly. His companion, who hit the Runella soldier with his weapon, laughs in excitement, saying the Caribbean army became utterly powerless since they left it. The wolf-head man continues that is the reason their lord sought them out even after they retired. Raucus feels glad to watch his old companions and asks why they are arriving now. The man reveals that they gave Mayora a good beating just before they got there. He adds that Caribbe's master and great leader Barrett, in order to follow the successor of that great person, who is the current lord of Caribbe, Jared. He announces that 100 elite guards of Barrett and Jared's army of 900 will henceforth participate together in that war. The past scene unfolds where Jared commends a man, telling him he's done well up until now. The man, confused, asks what Jared means. Jared clarifies that the man has served Caribbe loyally for many years, but it's time for him to retire. The man, startled, proclaims that he is Barrett, the loyal guard of Caribbe, bound by his oath of service. Before he can finish, Jared cuts him off, stating that his father is gone, and with him the need for his father's soldiers. Jared reveals that most of the soldiers have already been dismissed, signaling the end of an era. The reason was a lack of funds. More specifically, it was due to Jared's lavish spending on his desires to live a luxurious life. Then the vermin who took advantage of that situation quietly seized Caribbe. All of Barrett's associate guards were forced out of their positions, and the soldiers who had been receiving high salaries faced continuous salary cuts until their eviction. Orson and those veterans with him didn't have the will to watch as the Caribbe they had worked so hard to build up was slowly falling apart. They had instead vowed to spend their days quietly in the woods and dispersed. Amid a breezing storm, Orson, with his hunting weapons, wanders in the forest. He utters that the spring snow is quite heavy today, and that he will need to give up on hunting at that rate. Suddenly, he notices someone far from a distance. It turns out to be red goblins with their cart full of iron. Orson gets alert and points out his weapon. He wonders how goblins get that deep inside Caribbe. Goblins get scared to watch him with weapons pointing towards them and escape from the scene with their cart. Orson utters if the goblins just ignore him. Later in a smithy, Orson explains everything to a blacksmith. Curiously, the man asks about the red goblins carrying iron. He explains that those are probably the ingredients they ordered. They have been selling the military a ton of weapons recently. He casually thanks to their lord's orders that they have been working 24 hours a day. Orson says that must be tiring. The smith confirms it, but thanks to that, they blacksmiths have been living like blacksmiths. He smiles with gratitude and thanks to their lord, he has been relit with the flames of passion. He reminds Orson to keep that a secret. The weapons they are making are being delivered secretly. Orson tells him that he doesn't even want to know and stops him from telling about it. Orson thought the changes that came up in the Caribbe were just luck at first. However, with better management of irrigation facilities, it solved the problem of drought warriors. With better road systems, the management of the population influx was solved. The treatment of soldiers, establishment of new positions, and recruitment of new talent were improved. The soldiers who had left have acknowledged these changes and returned to the military. With all the work that Jared had done, they have given him a second chance. These men have stood by Jared and surpassed the monster invasion. They were the best of the best. The Mayorican army and the Runellan army just couldn't be compared. They have unmatched experience and skill. Orson proclaims those worthless men who couldn't even look them in the eye before. Meanwhile, 2 Runellan soldiers are begging for their lives. Orders of retreat in the Runellan force spread out. Batman calls Horgos an idiot as he couldn't even predict that the elite force of Caribbe was hiding right there. He rushes back saying they have made an alliance in vain and suggests they retreat before Jared comes. Meanwhile, Horgos retreats as well with fear in his eyes. His left soldiers inform him that it's a mage. Terrified screams echo as they realize it's Jared. Horgos, shaken, mutters in disbelief that Jared has already caught up to them. In an instant he appears, hovering just a foot above Horgos, calmly asking if he's doing well. With a mocking smirk, Jared remarks that Horgos must be weaker than he thought, perhaps even weaker than Rakis. Enraged, Horgos shouts for Jared to stop flying around like a coward and fight him face to face. Jared, unbothered, begins casting a fire spell, warning Horgos that he should prepare to come down too. As Jared unleashes a torrent of fire on him, the American army rushes to defend their lord. With a devilish grin, Jared warns them to back off, his aura radiating menace. Horgos, choking on smoke, coughs as Jared strides toward him, coldly stating that he knew from the beginning that peace was a fantasy. He accuses Ronella and Mayora of quietly plotting their next attack on Caribbe all along. Horgos, in disbelief, mutters that it can't be true. But Jared silences him with a barrage of magic, striking him with powerful spells to keep him quiet. He continues, detailing how Horgos schemed to take everything from Caribbe's lands, and vows that he will ensure no more of Horgos' people suffer from his evil deeds. With a final burst of energy, Jared summons lightning, sending streams of power crashing into Horgos. He promises to cleanse the land of Mayora, ensuring no trace of Horgos' tyranny remains, and finishes with lightning spears, declaring that he will purify Horgos' territory for good. Bleeding and racked with pain, Horgos lets out an inhuman laugh, taunting Jared and asking if he truly believes this will end here. Jared, unfazed, replies calmly that while he may make mistakes from time to time, there's one thing he knows for certain: he's still better than Horgos. In a fit of rage, Horgos yells his name, but Jared cuts him off, driving a sword from Horgos' knee deep into the ground. Horgos screams in agony, his body trembling as he struggles to endure the pain. Jared coldly remarks that this should be enough to relieve Horgos' anger. Bleeding from his nose and mouth, Horgos sneers, asking if Jared thinks this will all end with his death. He smiles grotesquely, warning that once the Empire's Knight General hears of this, he will bring his forces to avenge him. Jared, undeterred, pulls out the Book of Paradiso and holds it up before Horgos, asking if he even knows what it is. Jared opens the book and flips through the pages, saying that Count Byrox, whom Horgos mentioned, won't come. In pain, Horgos asks, surprised, how Jared knows his name. Jared reveals that he has spent countless nights writing diligently, making personal notes about people and events. While doing so, he discovered that Horgos and the Count were related. Jared laughs madly, making jokes about killing him. He closes the book and gazes at Horgos, asking if he really thinks a general from the Atima Empire would come to save his nephew. He explains that it's impossible to travel through dozens of territories, cross 5,000 kilometers, and pass through 4 kingdoms. Jared asks if Horgos truly believes the general would grieve over his nephew's death and seek vengeance. He adds that to someone as power-hungry as the general, a nephew like Horgos is just an eyesore, and no one will mourn him. In fact, they will feel relieved. Jared smirks and mocks Horgos, saying his life is worthless. He tells Horgos not to worry and that he has prepared far more thoroughly than him. Jared surrounds them in a circle of magic water and offers Horgos his last words. In a rage, Horgos stabs out with his sword, calling Jared a scoundrel. Jared directs the water toward him, drowning him. He says it was an evil will that drove him and that he will listen to the rest in the afterlife. Jared gently touches Horgos' statue and shatters it. The game notifies Jared that his first successful defense has been completed, and he earns 50 charms as a reward. The value of his territory increases by 50% regardless of internal affairs. Jared leans back and stares at the Mayoran soldiers, who, scared, surrender. The remaining Mayoran soldiers are stripped of their gear, surrendering entirely. It was an easy victory. Jared, however, doesn't indulge in his success. Instead, he advances, disguised as a Mayoran. From the beginning, his single goal was clear: to take control of both Mayora and Ronella. In the end, Mayora fell, and within a single day, the leadership changed hands. Jared looks at the points table, considering affairs related to farming, business, public order, science, and loyalty. He muses that Caribbe, now no longer a subservient nation, might be considered weak, but it's an independent one. Rakis asks what Jared plans to do next, noting that Ronella has no fortresses near Caribbe, making it unlikely they can defend themselves. Jared confirms this and instructs Rakis to prepare for battle, adding that, in the end, wars are won by the side with the greater numbers. He suggests they make their way to Ronella. However, Jared's ambitious plan is interrupted by an unexpected visitor. In Batman's reception room, General Carp of Mysteria Territory informs them that Lord Horgos, the mastermind behind the war, has died by Jared's hand and that Mayora has been conquered. Carp adds that they have eliminated the cause and produced fine results. Jared, however, disagrees, staring at Batman and saying he doesn't think only one person was responsible. Batman coughs and mentions Lord Carp. Carp smiles, stating that if that's the case, Lord Batman ought to agree to pay a compensation fee. Batman looks disappointed, but Carp continues, saying that, as a pacifist who loves peace, he would never want to see neighboring territories consumed by the terror of war. Jared, using his mind eye, muses that Carp is clearly looking for an opportunity to attack Ranella while pretending to be peace-loving. Carp asks Batman if he agrees, to which Batman, feeling glad, responds, yes. Suddenly, Jared yells and casts an ice storm spell, followed by flame arrows, lightning arrows, and fireballs. Carp emerges from the smoke without a scratch and draws his sword, slicing Jared in half. Jared, in his thoughts, tells himself to calm down. He realizes that Carp is a rank B tank, so there's no way his magic would harm him. Carp, the leader of a central territory with a military twice the size of Caribbe's, laughs, asking Jared if he agrees. Jared understands and reflects on the impossibility of fighting General Carp. Carp laughs, calling Jared a kind-hearted man. Jared, however, contemplates his broader strategic objective, advancing from the northern continent to the central one. To achieve that, he must pass through Mysteria territory and, as part of his plan, resolve to eliminate Carp. At night, while Lena is sleeping tirelessly, Ella enjoys the candlelight and pours wine in glass. She exhales in relief and thinks that is the best time of day. Suddenly, she notices Chloe there and asks the reason for wandering so late. She casually remarks that she wants some fresh air. Worried, Ella asked her if the war is burdenizing her because she was distracted all day. Chloe looks disappointed and sits beside her, stating that she was wondering why Lord Jared didn't ask for any help. Ella dismisses her worries and passes a smile, saying he just hired me to teach Lena, and he probably didn't want to ask a guest to protect his land. Worried, Chloe adds that Caribbe is about to be overrun by the enemy. Ella takes a sip and says it seems Lord Jared was preparing for this war for a while, and now they are only looking for results. Chloe agrees a bit and utters that Lord Jared is looking out in the future. She reveals that while she had plenty of opportunities to talk to Lord Jared, he also asked her if she is doing good. He asked her why she was out laboring in this filthy world since most of the Grey Elves better themselves in the safety of their territory. She tells her that he knew about the gruesome end. She adds that her father saw it at the hands of those black orcs. Curiously, Ella inquires if the Grey Elves are not the only ones that know all about this, and that she knows this because Chloe told her. She even gave her advice to not just seek revenge on the black orcs, but to look at the bigger picture. Curiously, Ella mutters that he is quite the person and how he knows all about this. Chloe casually remarks that she wants to know that too. Ella walks away with the bottle of wine, saying that they have plenty of time left in Caribbean territory, and instructs her to keep an eye on Jared if she is interested. Chloe understands it. Ella adds to inform her if she feels something else too. Chloe turns her blushing face and asks her to wait. She watches Ella dancing and mentions Jared to ask if he wanted a glass of wine. Ella looks glad, saying freedom is the best. Chloe tells her with a straight face that is the reason for all nasty rumors about her. Meanwhile, in Mayora, at the backstreet alley, Fua furiously shatters the wine bottle. He calls Horgos an idiot that he died while dragging so many soldiers to death. He can't believe that he spent all that money on him. He reveals that they are leaving and instructs his bunch of army to immediately gather the money and all the valuable things. Coming out of the mansion, Fua claims that their trading routes are secured, so they just have to prepare for the future after shifting to Ranella. Sacred, his assassin, alerts him to look to his left. Fua gets shocked to witness Jared there. Jared greets him and asks where he is rushing. Fua casually remarks that he is moving due to his new job. Jared uses his mind eye and reveals that Fua is in possession of the artifact, Tear of Mahart level 3, and also has Space Warping Clock. Fua grabs his clock, saying he has no spare time to humor them. Jared instantly streams spells on him, saying he is also busy taking Fua and his buddies down. Fua activates the artifact, Space Warping Clock, and surrounds themselves with a shield. The stream of Jared's attack slows down in that shield area. Rakes wonderfully asks if Fua is a mage too. Jared dismisses his worries, revealing that it's an effect of the artifact. He adds that Fua can slow down magic in a 20-meter area. Jared muses that an artifact can't affect 5th class magic, but he is still a 4th class magician. He walks towards Frua's shield, musing whether he likes it or not to land an effective blow, but he has to be within 20 meters of him. Jared undoubtedly passes through the shield. Fua asks him if he wants to fight that close. Jared, with a serious tone, warns him that it's the end of an infamous drug cartel. Fua asks if he wants to catch him as soon as the war is over. He mocks Jared, saying if he is tired. Eventually, he asks him to forget everything, suggesting to do some business. He asks him to turn blind eye towards them and proposes to give 3 times more money than Horgo's. He adds that he doesn't want to commence a war against the new lord in their territory. Furiously, Raucus mutters how dare he talk to his lord like that. Jared reflects that if he left Fua now, then the northern region of the Nas continent would fall under the influence of Detrahair. He adds that in the future, Lena would be known as the Impenetrable Wall, and Fua would be known as the right hand of the Demon King advisor, Tyrant. Jared laughs and casually remarks that they have to take down the likes of him to keep the dignity of Mayora as a new territory. Fua takes out his sword, asking if negotiation is impossible. He warns Jared that he will put him to sleep now and asks if he is confident in beating Akran. The game notifies that his strength and wisdom will be doubled if his level is lower than his opponent. The conditions have been met and the 5th option of Deluxe bracelet will now be activated. A black aura is released from his bracelet. Nightmare artifact activates. Jared laughs inhumanly and asks Fua if he is ready for some sweet dreams. In the streets of Mayora, tension thickens as Jared and Frua's armies face off, the clashing of weapons and the hum of magic reverberating through the air. At the heart of the battlefield stands Jared, eyes locked on his opponent. Without hesitation, Jared unleashes a volley of magical attacks, the air around him crackling with energy. Fua, agile and experienced, dodges with calculated precision, swiftly closing the distance between them. Before he can reach Jared, one of Jared's soldiers steps forward, raising a shield in a futile attempt to block his advance. The soldier declares that Fua will never reach his lord, but his confidence is misplaced. Jared, sensing the danger, calls out for the soldier to retreat, recognizing Frua's deadly intent. Yet the warning comes too late. With a single brutal strike, Frua's blade cleaves through the soldier's shield as though it were paper, the force of the blow driving the man to the ground. Fua uses the fallen body as leverage, propelling himself forward in a fierce bid to reach Jared. Reacting quickly, Jared summons a flash of light, blinding Fua momentarily. The mage wastes no time, following the distraction with a powerful spell that slams into Fua, forcing him to his knees. Blood trickles from Frua's mouth as he struggles to rise, his mind racing with disbelief. Jared's abilities in close combat are far beyond what he had anticipated. Though Jared is a mage, his spells are unnaturally fast, each one coming with a precision and speed that feels overwhelming, like facing 4 enemies at once. Fua begins to wonder if Jared is more than just a 4th-class mage, his power hinting at something far greater. Watching Fua struggle, Jared's expression remains composed, but a mocking satisfaction flickers in his eyes. He seems amused by Frua's reliance on his sword, an artifact clearly designed to counter magic. Jared has seen many warriors fall into this trap before, leaning too heavily on their tools, and Fua is no different. Though undeniably skilled, Frua's strength with the blade seems tied to his weapon. Without it, Jared silently muses, Frua's combat prowess would falter. This realization seems to fuel Frua's rage. His aura flares as he taps deeper into his raw strength, entering the 2nd stage of recklessness, his power growing more ferocious with each moment. Fua charges again, his strikes wild and furious, each one more desperate than the last. Jared retreats with precision, carefully maintaining the gap between them as he summons a fireball, hurling it straight at his advancing foe. Fua, unfazed, cuts through the fiery projectile with a swift motion and presses on, his sword gleaming in the dim light of the shattered city. But Jared is already a step ahead. With a subtle flick of his fingers, he casts a spell that sends the nearby buildings collapsing in on themselves, debris raining down to block Frua's advance. Fua nimbly dodges the falling rubble, his every movement drawing him closer to Jared's trap. As he nears, Fua swings his sword with lethal precision, slicing through Jared's overcoat with a single blow. But Jared is gone before Fua can land a second strike, already perched atop a nearby rooftop, eyes cold and calculating. Though Frua's speed is impressive, Jared knows he can push the battle further. Gathering a dark, swirling aura of black energy around him, he begins to chant. His voice echoes unnaturally as the magic builds. A low, cold laugh slips from his lips, the energy pulsing ominously. Then, with a burst of power, he unleashes a devastating combination of lightning and nightmare magic, the sheer force of the attack slamming into Fua. The impact is immense as he collapses under the assault, with bruises and scars appearing as dark magic rips through his flesh. Despite the pain, he refuses to yield. As the dust settles, Jared watches his opponent from above, his cold gaze assessing Frua's condition. There is no pity in his eyes, only a quiet acknowledgement of Frua's sword skills. Despite his raw power, he struggles to match a mage like Jared, especially one so skilled at controlling the battlefield. Frua's swordsmanship is impressive, each strike fast and powerful, but this advantage is useless against Jared. A twisted grin spreads across Frua's face as he taps into his third stage of recklessness. His aura flares with intensity, and his laughter echoes across the battlefield. Despite his pain and exhaustion, his rage pushes him forward, focused on defeating Jared. With his power at its peak, he vows to end the fight with one blow. He charges forward in a blur, closing the distance between them. Jared, confident in his control, is caught off guard by Frua's sudden speed. The warrior's aura crackles with energy as he aims his blade at his enemy. But Frua's recklessness becomes his downfall. Just as he reaches Jared, a blade materializes unexpectedly, piercing through Frua's chest. Jared's laughter fills the air as he steps back, mocking his enemy. Jared recounts how Deluc and Fua are like polar opposites when it comes to strength. While Deluc's power waned over time, Fua was on the up and up. Jared effortlessly dodged Deluc's predictable moves and chipped away at his health with some clever magic tricks. One slip-up could mean a game over though, but this tactical finesse doesn't quite cut it against Fua or Capri. In a predicament, Jared focuses on Frua's special knack for recklessness. It's like hitting the gas pedal, boosting physical prowess in stages. A godsend for Jared, whose stats are lacking. With a mischievous grin, Jared pokes fun at Fua, asking if that's all he's got with his artifact's power. He eggs him on to dash headlong into recklessness, taunting him about his claims of superiority over Akran. He asks if something is wrong and questions about being pushed back in close combat by a mage. He jokes to Fua that the sun might go up any minute if he drags this for a long time. It unfolds that Jared used space magic to stab Fua with his own blade after his judgment had been clouded over by recklessness. Fua had faltered in a way that he wouldn't have normally. Jared casually asks him if he has never heard to keep a cool head and a warm heart. He shows him a drug packet and remarks that countless people have died because of the drug Fua sold. He adds that those who shouldn't have money ended up with it. He thrusts the leaked packet in his mouth, saying that's a parting gift from him, something he knows Frua's like. With a serious tone, Jared remarks how they sold the poison so proudly, claiming anyone would die for the thrill it gave. As a poisonous foam bubbles from Frua's mouth, Jared declares his fate: execution by beheading for attempting an unforgivable crime that threatened the future of the nation and its people. The game notifies that the quest, Tiger Hunting, is complete, raising the loyalty and public order of Mayora by 100 points. However, the warning persists. The deaths will continue if the root cause is not resolved. Jared's forces overwhelm Frua's soldiers. Rakis informs his lord that the remaining opposition has been subdued. Jared acknowledges that while Fua led the largest criminal syndicate in Mayora, other organizations still linger. He orders a full cleanup before dawn, instructing his soldiers to take down any who resist without hesitation. This land will no longer be ruled by crime, Jared proclaims confidently. As daylight breaks, a weary Rakis reflects on Jared's leadership. He had always surpassed impossible odds with wisdom, but this time he had shown sharp decisiveness and quick action. Rakis muses that Jared now carries the aura of a rising emperor. The game notifies that Rakis' loyalty has skyrocketed, and with it his first awakening as his loyalty reaches 200 points. In the Lord's study, surrounded by piles of paperwork, Jared barely lifts a hand and, with a trembling voice, mutters about the mess before him. Out of breath, He admits he doesn't have time to wrestle with so much administration. Reading through the papers, Jared notes 2 tasks: raiding the ancient tombs around Mayora to gain more power, and finding an expert who can mine Chaldia, an underground resource stronger than iron, set to be discovered in 13 years. If they acquire it first, Mayora will dominate in weaponry. Exhausted, Jared collapses onto the table, muttering that it's all too much and Horgos must have tricked him. He wonders how he's supposed to handle all this. Suddenly, he remembers Hayes, who had helped him when he first arrived in Caribbe. Jared smiles, confident he can rely on her again. Later during a talent hunt, Jared reveals that today's focus is finding individuals who can help run Mayora. The first contestant, Tonio, demonstrates a strong aptitude for assisting with political duties. Jared is thrilled, certain that with Tonio's help, Mayora will see reform. However, the game exiles Tonio, revealing that he was secretly Horgos' advisor. The second contestant, Katie, a young woman with a sharp business instinct, steps forward next. With a straight face, Jared dismisses Katie, saying it's a shame, but he'll have to make do with what's available. Once again, the game rejects the contestant, revealing she was exiled for requesting a budget from Horgos. The final contestant, Marklin, is skilled and cooperative, so Jared, exhausted, decides to move forward with him. Yet again, the game intervenes, revealing that Marklin had fled the night Horgos died. Jared is left dumbfounded, muttering, "What is wrong with Mayora? Not a single capable person here." Defeated, he admits it's the first time his wisdom and mind's eye have failed him. He briefly considers calling on Oberon and Isabella, but quickly dismisses the idea. They're busy with Caribbe. A new notification appears. 5 workers from the Labor Department have quit due to extreme complaints from the head of Labor, and another 5 from the Commerce Department have left because the head of Commerce hasn't paid them in 3 months. Concerned, Rikis arrives with news. There's a problem in Divani, a village in the southwest of Mayora. Jared confirms its location. Rikis explains that a leader was recently assigned there, but reports suggest he's done no real work. Desperate villagers approach Rikis, begging for help, claiming their leader spends his days drawing obscene pictures and drinking. With a stern expression, Jared mutters that despite holding such an important position, the leader has learned nothing. His aura flares as he enters stage 4 of recklessness, ordering Rikis to prepare for a visit to Divani to hand out some discipline. Upon arriving, they're guided by an old man to a room. In a fit of rage, Jared kicks the door open, shattering it instantly. Rikis steps forward, warning the village leader Julian to show himself immediately. Rikis' teammates blushingly watch obscene pictures on the walls and say that they are so vibrant. Furiously, Rikis asks them to be quiet. The floor is covered with empty bottles of wine. Sitting in dim light, a man with a mug inquires about their identities. Furiously, Rikis asks if he is Julian. Jared uses his mind eye and reflects that he has seen multiple talents and all of them enhancing their own unique skills. Even if it was a little late, he made sure they could develop their talents as early as possible. Out of all the people Jared has seen so far, this guy is not anything normal. He adds that Julian is closest to perfection. Julian confirms his identity and asks if there is any matter. The game notifies that Julian's wisdom has risen with a powerful synergy from his special qualities. Jared excuses Rikis for a moment. Jared muses that Julian is hiding his thoughts and is so skilled. With a serious tone, Jared asks why he hasn't done anything for the village and if he hasn't paid for it. Julian casually replies that he doesn't think he is something to handle such trivial work. He drinks beer, saying he is not someone who should be at such an insignificant village. Furiously, Rikis tries to take out his sword and warns him that how dare he speak such nonsense. Jared sits with Julian and gently asks if he thinks that he doesn't fit for this work. Julian confirms it. Jared smiles and asks him to tell the truth. He asks if Julian doesn't want to do it or that he can't do it. Julian looks at him blankly for a while and casually replies that he doesn't want to do it. Jared smiles and asks if he can prove his words. Julian smiles back and asks if he supervises him from this side. He calls out a boy and orders him to gather all the past documents, even small civil cases. He commits to review all the cases. The boy understands it. Julian stands by the wall and requests Jared and others to help him take down those pictures. Uncomfortably, he reveals that he draws them, and without a second thought, sticks them on the wall. They start removing the pictures from walls. Different cases appear there. Just then an old lady enters with her calf. Julian asks if she said her calf is not growing properly. He advises her to make sure she hasn't been feeding it too little or not weaving it soon enough. A lady and a man enter. Julian tells them that fewer grains will be processed if the pay for the labor of milling grains grows too much. He adds the pay will be decreased by 1/16. He solves another case that something is wrong with the queen bee if the population of bees has decreased in a hive. They will reach a different hive themselves if they destroy that hive. Julian says aloud that it seems that there is someone embezzling the money earned from the harvest. Rakus wonderfully asks if there was someone like that. Observing his intelligence, Jared reflects that Julian has done a month's worth of work in half a day. Eventually, Julian informs them that all the pending cases are solved and that they can leave now. Jared orders his soldiers to leave. Jared and Julian sit with each other. Jared laughs and says he can understand now why he was so confident. Julian apologizes to him for not paying attention in managing this village. Julian tries to explain that he was merely procrastinating and that finishing his tasks wouldn't take much time. Jared, amused, laughs and tells Julian that he has done well in leading him there. He then asks if Julian now understands what kind of man he truly is. Julian nods, admitting that he has figured Jared out, and hesitantly asks for one request: to note his lord's dream. A flashback follows where a man questions how an adult could still think about dreams. Another man laughs, acknowledging Jared's skills, but pointing out that every man has a destiny, and Jared seems arrogant for a commoner. Horkus then enters the scene, laughing as he talks about the nation's growth. He explains that he brought Jared into the fold because of his perfect score on the Empire management tests, but remarks that it seems vanity is what truly drives him. Julian reflects that a leader's ambition should always surpass the combined ambitions of their people. Despite serving such powerful individuals as his lord, he feels insignificant in comparison. Jared then reveals his dream to become the hero of the entire Nas continent. He adds that his true goal is to be the world's hero, not just a nameless lord of a small territory. Curious, Julian asks if Jared is being truthful. Jared, with a playful smile, questions if he seems like the type to lie or if he's unworthy of becoming a hero. Julian pours beer into 2 glasses and admits that for a long time he has wanted someone he could look up to. He adds that it's not the fault of a vassal if their lord is looked down upon by their own followers. They toast, and Julian challenges Jared to either become an earl or lead a conglomerate of territories by the end of the year, proving his dream is real. Jared accepts the challenge, laughing as he asks if Julian is ready to supervise him. Julian bursts into laughter, declaring that he would never lead the side of a lord who has earned his full respect. However, he adds that if Jared fails, he will walk away without hesitation. Jared confidently cheers with him, vowing that they will be together for eternity, and appoints Julian as the executive head in charge of Mayorica's internal affairs. Meanwhile, in Caribbe, Hayes, exhausted, mutters to herself, wondering when Jared will return to his mansion. She overhears Orson mention that it's clear Jared plans to instate a single vassal as the executive head to manage the entire territory. Furious, Isabella insists they leave for Mayorica immediately, having seen the situation for themselves. Oberyn turns to Hayes and asks if she will join them in greeting the Lord. Hayes, excited, confirms with a smile. In the Lord's office in Mayorica, Jared reflects on how the territory stabilized quickly after Julian took over as the executive head. For the past week, Jared has essentially lived in the office, pushing himself to match the hard work Julian was putting in. Hayes enters, bringing tea made from the Carlicas flower. Blushing, she mentioned she brought it because she heard it was good for dieting. Jared, looking uncomfortable, muses that he's abandoned the idea of dieting. Worried, Hayes asks if he's tired and offers to give him a shoulder massage. Julian notices the exchange and smiles, advising Jared to take some rest, reminding him that restlessness can negatively affect his abilities. Jared insists he's fine, but Julian dismisses his concerns, bowing and stating that he'll return after meeting with other vassals. Jared then reveals that his vassals in Caribbe had heard rumors about Mayorica's new leadership and came to see for themselves, initially worried that a young officer might mismanage the territory. However, they ended up praising Julian after recognizing his skills. Jared invites Hayes to join him for a drink, but she instantly refuses, saying she couldn't possibly sit with her lord. He reassures her, saying not to worry about formalities when they're alone. Blushing, Hayes reluctantly agrees, and Jared pours her tea. Suddenly, Jared asks Hayes if she would ever consider giving up being a maid. Startled, she spills the tea on herself and, with a trembling voice, asks what he means. Her eyes widen as she questions whether he's saying she's a failure as a maid, overthinking the situation and wondering if she's being fired because the mansion is already cleaned or if it's due to her lack of skills. Jared calms her down, explaining that he used magic to clean the mansion himself and that she doesn't need to worry. He then uses magic to clean her shirt, remarking that there will be times when he needs to use such spells. He tells her she could stop being a maid and take a higher position now that she's a skilled healer. Innocently, Hayes responds that she doesn't want another maid to take care of Jared. Frustrated, Jared shouts, asking if she can't follow his orders. She responds that she'll quit healing if she has to quit being a maid. At that moment, Jared's pendant starts glowing with a green aura, causing both of them to look at it curiously. After a few seconds, it falls back onto the table. Hayes asks about the pendant, and Jared explains that it was an artifact confiscated from a criminal. He grabs it and reveals its name, Tears of Mahart 3. He adds that while it raises one's base stats by 25, its true purpose is to serve as a key to the ancient catacombs beneath Mayora. Excited, he asks Hayes if she's ready to go explore a place he's wanted to visit ever since arriving in Mayora. He praises her for being better with directions than him, to which she calmly agrees. Meanwhile, in the small town of Moralis in the kingdom of Lentus, a postman knocks on Belton's door to deliver a letter. Belton, a traveler, receives the letter, and the postman asks if he knows anything about large packages. Belton glances at the name and wonders if he knows the person who sent it. After exchanging pleasantries, Belton sits down, places a sack of gold coins on the table, and begins reading the letter, which is from Jared. In the letter, Jared introduces himself as a recently promoted 5th-class mage, and asks for Belton's guidance in how to proceed further in his magical studies. Belton picks up a gold coin, muttering to himself, wondering if Jared expects him to accept the gold as payment and come to his aid. Revealing himself as Belhard, a 9th-class Grand Mage, he finds it odd that Jared would address him as Belton. He contemplates the letter for a moment, recognizing that while Jared's words were strange, they indicate that he's indeed advanced to the 5th class. Even geniuses, Belhard reflects, often struggle with the steps needed to reach the next level of magic. Suddenly, he recalls Jared as Barrett's useless son, surprised that Jared tracked him down. Belhard dismisses the idea of visiting just yet, stating that a Grand Mage should maintain some sense of grandeur. Back in the heart of a dense, dark forest, Hayes nervously mentions how creepy the atmosphere feels. Jared reassures her, brushing off her concerns, saying there are no villains around. She remains uneasy, noting that it feels unsettling. Jared reveals that during the development of the game they're in, no one was given a clue about the location of the ancient catacombs. He recalls how, when everyone was about to give up, someone spotted the location in a reflection on a developer's monitor in a social media post. Standing in front of a large, seemingly normal tree, Jared informs her that the entrance is right there, adding that the only odd thing is how green the trees are. Suddenly, the sand beneath them shifts, taking the shape of a giant soul. With a serious tone, Jared orders Hayes to stay 5 steps behind him. The soul demands to know who dares enter its catacombs. Jared confidently responds, addressing the spirit as Mahart. The spirit, surprised, remarks that a cursed one from another world has appeared before him.